Battaglia.
We're focused on, obviously, what's right in front of us with Dallas this week. It's going to take a heck of an effort.
Let's go! Mike Danger.
Do you know who I am?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm so excited on the path that the Buffalo Bills are taking. They are the team of destiny.
I have a take, and I never suck. Bill Belichick, you are not the greatest coach of all time.
Yes.
It's the truth, and I don't even think he's in the top 5.
Thursday night football.
Draymond Green headed for counseling because Green has been suspended indefinitely.
Giannis scored a Bucks record 64 points last night, then got into heated post-game exchanges with multiple Pacers over the game ball.
I think trolling and pettiness like this is exactly what makes the NBA great.
5-1 Colorado. They pull away in the third period with 2 goals.
Malik brings it out on top, moves in backhander. Oh, Subban gets the glove on it, and it's over.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I was gonna try and make it through the entirety of this afternoon without mentioning the Sabres.
But why did Dan DeLorean have to do that to us?
And then moments before we jump on the air, and welcome into the Sports Bar. Glad you're listening along at 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, and in the free-to-download Odyssey app. Also, our stream up for you. You can watch the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. Moments before we jumped on the air, I look up, and ESPN's on in the studio monitor here, and it's Eric Johnson weeping. And I'm like, what? Now, I full disclosure, I couldn't watch last night's game. I only saw the final. And I saw the final, I'm like, oh, God, here we go again. This team can't stay consistent. They have a bad effort and just don't look. They have nights where they look like they can compete with Stanley Cup contenders. They have nights where they look like the worst team in the league. But I was wondering, like, what happened to Eric Johnson? I know that, he's coming back.
I think I have this. I want to give this a shot
here.
Yeah,
let's give it a shot.
So this is Eric Johnson. And NHL players quite often will meet with media. They call it the morning skate. So morning skate yesterday prior to last night's loss in Colorado.
They were so great to me for so long, and just excited to be back. And Denver's home for me now, so it's just such a great place. One of the best cities in the country, best organizations in the league. So it was a great run. I'm super grateful, and I'd probably like to say more, but I'd probably get choked up a little bit if I kept talking, so I'll save it. But I think everyone knows, how important this organization was to me over the years.
You're excited, but I know, do you have to mentally kind of prepare yourself because you know that tribute is coming in the middle of the game just to kind of stay focused on the game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's, just give me a minute.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Oh, boy, waterworks.
I mean, this sounds like a guy that doesn't want to be in Buffalo.
Denver is the greatest.
Sounds like a guy who's been given an assignment. You no longer wanted here. Go play in Buffalo.
Translation: Colorado didn't want him back, right? And I still feel like I have something to prove, and let me join this young and upcoming team. And
there's value to him being on the roster in Buffalo, but you're right. He's talking as if he's a guy who doesn't really want to not be in Denver. He wants to be in Denver. Denver's a great city. I don't know. I'm sure he said good things about Buffalo in his short time in Buffalo, but yeah, he's getting choked up over. And I don't want to be judgmental. I haven't been in that situation. These guys devote so much of their time and energy and effort to their craft and to the city for the sweater that they wear on their chest. I don't want to be judgmental, but that sure sounds like a guy who would rather be in Denver than his current lot in life.
I think that it's unique in this sense because athletes are not only physically tough, they're mentally tough. And by part of being mentally tough, you're prepared for any situation and dealing with the media. And that's why a lot of them don't give you interesting quotes. They just kind of talk and to not be prepared, not to think about what this situation would be like, talking to these reporters you've been facing face-to-face for 15 years, and you're coming back and you're getting that emotional prior to the game, talking about this great city in Denver.
The tribute video that they're going to get for you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, look, he got him a cup. He was a part of some really down years, and he was part of the highest of highs. So I suppose the emotion is warranted. But the outcome for the Sabres was not a good one last night. No. No, it was not.
No, I went to bed. Like, anytime you give up 3 goals before you get your first shot on goal.
I didn't want to, yeah.
Like I said, a good night.
Like I said, I was hoping we could make it through the entirety of the show without really addressing that.
Well, it's out of the way now.
Yep.
We ripped the Band-Aid off, and that concludes our Sabres Talk portion of the show
There
today.
you go. Now let's enjoy the rest of our afternoon, talking Bills, talking Cowboys. Later this afternoon, our buddy RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys from SB Nation. He'll be stopping by the sports bar at 4:25, and we'll get the latest out of Big D.
I love RJ. He has got unique takes about the Cowboys, and he has a take here from reading some of his work that he pinpoints kind of the lowest point in recent years being that Thanksgiving Day game that Dallas lost to Buffalo, and that was 4 years ago. And
Buffalo wasn't supposed to win that game.
No, and that really sent the Cowboys into a tailspin, and that kind of sent Jason Garrett, all right, what are we doing with this guy here on his way? So, but now here they are 4 years later, and all right, who's the best team in the NFL? Is it the Niners? Is it the Cowboys? The Cowboys haven't been in this discussion since when? I'm being honest. Like, Cowboy fans should be excited. And when was the last time we could honestly say, I'm not talking about Stephen A. summer hype or anything like that. I'm talking honest to goodness December football conversation that the Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not willing to go that far because I think the best team in the NFL embarrassed the Cowboys earlier this season.
Correct.
But, and if you're a Cowboy fan, I think you have every reason to feel cautiously optimistic. You get to the postseason, and it might not be what you've become accustomed to, which is the early exit, the choke job, whatever it might be. You could make a deeper run this year just based on how you've been playing. Dak Prescott is having his best season as a pro, and for as critical as we've been, or we can be, about Mike McCarthy in his past, Mike McCarthy should be in the discussion for Coach of the Year. He won't be, but he should be. He took on offensive play caller duties. Kellen Moore left, and it's like nobody cares. Mike McCarthy has made Dak Prescott better. He's made that offense better. Mike McCarthy has done a really, really nice job with that Dallas roster and with the Cowboys this year. It's hard not to like what they're bringing to the table. They've got a lot to like on defense. You know, it's clear that Dan Quinn could be a head coach in the NFL if he wants that responsibility this offseason. He'll probably get that opportunity again. So they're rolling. And yet, you can't help but think that the Bills are in a spot. We always talk about teams in their spots, right? That the Bills are in a spot coming off a big emotional win on the road against a chief rival, and you're hosting Dallas, and the AFC East is within sight. It feels like a spot where the Bills would take advantage.
Funny how Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones, the one owner who does media, not once in a while, like every week, talking about the importance of this game and basically saying that we have to find some way, realizing, okay, this is going to be a fight, and we caught a break. When was that break? It's not going to be a blizzard in Buffalo this week. Like, what are you talking about? It's not going to be a blizzard. Wow.
You'd be surprised, though, man. So many people outside of our area really think that that's what our life is that it's cold and snowy every day for 4 months out of the year.
Or like a couple inches of snow means it's a blizzard.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Colts game, technically not a blizzard, but blizzard-like conditions. That was just lake effect. Okay, but that was how many years ago? 2017.
Yeah.
6 years ago, we've had
but you have
a game like that.
You have those occurrences once in a while, and if the right person experiences that, they can project it like through a megaphone. Like, imagine Armando Salguero coming to a Blizzard game in Buffalo.
Right.
All he would do is talk about the time he was in Buffalo for a Blizzard game, right? Like certain reporters, owners, players, the ones that are the most vocal, if they have that experience in Buffalo or in Rochester or in Syracuse, whatever it is, they're going to be vocal about it. And then henceforth, we'll be known as the place where it only snows for 4 months out of the year. You caught a break because, I mean, I don't know that anybody caught a break. I mean, the weather for the Bills didn't really help them or serve them in the postseason last year.
No, I don't think it means anything either direction. And for what it's worth, they're talking about rain in the second half, which, rain, cold. whoever gets up, maybe that's the key. Just get up early in this game. Dallas is like, you know what?
I want them miserable. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I want Dallas miserable. If the Bills can have a lead at halftime and kind of continue to put their foot in the gas offensively in the second half, then I like it. I like their chances. I like the chances that Dallas mentally just kind of wear down because of the elements. We'll see how it all shakes out, of course, Sunday afternoon. And you'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage on Sunday starts right at 12 noon. Week 15 gets underway tonight. It's another Thursday night prime game.
Boo.
Just when you thought you couldn't top Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky, we give you Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick. I didn't think it could get worse. It got worse.
This, just 2 seasons ago, might have been the game of the year. Do you remember that? It was week 18, back and forth, and the Raiders win, to get them into the postseason.
Oh, right.
The Chargers charge them like, wow, what a fantastic matchup. And maybe the Chiefs are going to be in this division, but we come back the next year. That's a gauntlet. That's unbelievable. The AFC West. More AFC West. No. What has happened to these two franchises? Well, one traded away their quarterback. They never really replaced him, right? If you really thought Jimmy Garoppolo was a replacement, no. And the other one got hurt. And Andy Behrens will join us here shortly from Yahoo Fantasy because is there anything you would play tonight? I don't even think you want to touch the defense. There's just so much you don't know about tonight on a short week. I'm just stepping back. Well, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a wide receiver that you probably...
Austin Eckler's playing, but he's not playing well. I don't know how.
Keenan Allen's out for this game.
Oh, here's what I'm touching. Under. I want to say the under was what? 38.5? 34.5. Under 34.5. Yeah, I'll take the under on that. That feels safe. I mean, the Raiders, after putting up 0 points in a 3-0 scorcher against the Vikings. I don't know what Easton Stick is. Nobody really does.
Well, the Raiders look like, to me, the typical team that has the interim coach, and they get a little sugar high, they get a little bit of a bounce, and then you say, oh, maybe Antonio Pierce is the guy. He's not the guy. They should go out and do a full search here and figure out how to, get that offense going.
Interesting note on the NFL's audience when we talk about all of these significant quarterback injuries this season, how it's become a war of attrition. The NFL games have actually generated 17.8 million viewers on average this season, which is the highest number in the league since 2015. I mean, you remember when in the infancy of the sports bar, the early days of the sports bar.
Were we talking about political power saying don't watch the NFL?
We were talking in fall of 2016. We had been on the air for just a couple of months. We signed on in the summer of 2016, late summer of 2016. And that fall, I remember ratings for the NFL being down and plummeting, and everybody was talking about how bad the ratings were in the league, and now the TV ratings, the NFL is dead. And no, the NFL is not dead. We're all addicted. We're all junkies, and we'll all watch. And even a game like tonight that features two quarterbacks that are a gigantic Francesa, I just don't think.
Oh, who cares?
I don't think you're going to turn away. I'm gonna punch it up.
I don't know. Would you take the holiday movie with the kids tonight?
Here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do. Meet me halfway. I'm going to my nephew's holiday band concert in Hilton tonight.
Ooh.
But that should be quick.
What does he play? Drums?
He's a trombone player.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I was a trombone player.
Yeah, Vinny rocks a trombone. Nice. And so I'll go watch Vinny, and then because I don't anticipate that being a long concert. I mean, we're talking about 5th and 6th graders here.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an over-under on time on that one. 45 minutes? 30?
Hour 15.
Hour 15?
Sure.
They're going to do like 4 songs, dude.
No. It's not the band. You're going to get the chorus there too, mind you.
Oh, the chorus.
The chorus and the show choir.
For 4th or for 5th and 6th graders?
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely they don't. It's not going to be concert by itself. You're going to get the chorus there. You're going to get whoever superintendent with their opening remarks talking about the holidays.
Yeah, my kids didn't do any instruments, so this is new. This is foreign territory to me. They would do like the Christmas concert where they would sing when they were little, like grade schoolers.
It gets even worse when you get high school. I'm sorry. anybody that's listening to your family, it gets even better when you're in high school, like because you get this choir and this band and the jazz band and all these different things. It's all lumped together in one, and parking's a pain.
I actually asked him, Vincent, you see yourself playing trombone in high school? He's like, nah, I don't know. Oh, in my head, I'm like, attaboy. Here's a football. Let's go out back and have a catch. Well, that's not very nice. You have to respect the arts.
Because all you'll have is...
it's the arts. You have to respect the arts.
So Hollywood is crawling with outsiders and foreigners. And if we kick them all out, you'll have nothing to watch but football and mixed martial arts, which are not the arts. They gave me 3 seconds to say this, so...
Anyways, Vinny's concert, I'm saying if it starts at 7, I'm out of there 8:30 at the latest.
You're there for kickoff. You can.
I'm probably missing maybe kickoff, but first quarter I'm there.
You can punch it up on the Odyssey app and listen on the way home. Like, hey, family, Daddy's got the under on this one.
If I really, really want to, if I really want to alienate my family more than I already have, let's listen to some really bad football on the way home. So that's tonight, and you mentioned it. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy stops by here in about 10 minutes now. We'll talk about tonight's scintillating matchup, and we'll look ahead. Saturday football this week. We got a triple header on Saturday, and then we get the action on Sunday. Which, if your league is in the playoffs this year or this week, we'll get you some winners. We'll get your roster set, and if you're not in the postseason, continue to play along. You can jock block some people by taking a player. Snatching somebody off of the waiver wire?
No. We should talk about this with Andy. You cannot do that. Look, if you're still in contention for points, yes. If you're still in contention for anything, of course.
Trying to win.
No. That's bad etiquette, bad form. That is bad karma. You can't be using your waiver priority next week for consolation games.
I'm not a quitter.
No, dude, you're trolling everybody.
I'm not a quitter.
You cannot say this with a straight face.
I'm not a quitter.
You're lying.
No, I'm not a quitter.
That's like Andy might just if you tell Andy that's a good idea, he may never come on the show again.
I want to bring it up to him. I want to ask him what the proper ruling is here on this one. He can wear his judge robe that he wears on Fantasy Football Talk Live, and we'll get a verdict from Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy here in less than 10 minutes. Our lines are open, and I believe they're working today. 866-4FAN. That's unless Adam from Irondequoit calls and blows out the phone line again. 866-4326. Spitting so much fire, the phones were malfunctioning for a good half an hour afterwards.
So Adam comes on. Really fantastic call. We go to break, and coming up next is Sal Capaccio. I'm like, I can't dial, and they just looking at me like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I text Sal, can you call us? He's like, I'm not getting anything. It's not ringing. Like, our system is like actually kind of goes through some computer.
It's all digital, yeah.
Yeah, and it just went down yesterday. Like, oh, that's fantastic here while you're trying to do a radio show.
That's fine. We just got our producer on. Oh, wait. Anyways, you can join us. 866-4326 is our phone number. 585-866-4FAN. We're also on Elon's Twitter, known as X. At the Fan Rochester, you can correspond with us there. I've got to give props to the Dandalorian, bounty hunter of the finest audio in the galaxy. As we approach Take of the Year time, I've been saying it since the moment you said it. That a Take of the Year nominee has to be your take on the name Jack. However, I was struggling as to when that take was actually unleashed. Jack is not a real name, says Gene Battaglia. And I put Dan to task. I'm like, dude, I don't know where it is. It's a needle in a haystack. But if you can find it, we need it for Take of the Year. I just wanted to revisit Take of the Year.
When was this from?
This dates back to April.
Okay. By the way, Jack is not a real name. You don't know.
That's a take.
No, it's not. Like, honestly, the name is Jonathan. That's why, like, name your kid Jonathan, and Jack is kind of like the way.
Wait a minute.
Jack.
Are you saying Jack is short for Jonathan? What do you mean Jack is not a real name?
You don't name your kid Mike. You name him Michael.
Uh-huh. So
You don't name your kid Nick. You name him Nicholas.
Uh-huh. So where does Jack come from?
Jonathan.
John comes from Jonathan.
Yeah.
Where does Jack come from?
Jack comes from John or Jonathan.
Really? Jack tweeting us. You said just not a real name. I think you summoned Jack by saying, "Hey, Jack, by the way, this guy over here says your name isn't real." That's his take.
Jack is probably a Jonathan or John.
I would like confirmation on that from one of our regulars on Twitter. Jack tweeting us. I'm still stunned by Jack isn't a real name. It's a great take. And also, I also like the guys that are named what they're named, but when you look at them, they don't look like their name. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't really look like a Eugene, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay. What am I, Carl? What am I?
You're Rick.
I'm Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. Rick is not a real name.
Rick Battaglia.
Richard.
You're not Gene or Eugene. You're Rick. Rick Battaglia with me, Mike Danger, here in the Sports Bar. Jack isn't a real name. And if you have the name Jack, you might not look like your name. Jack that tweets us, though, looks like a Jack.
That looks like a Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, you're cool.
But it's not your real name, Jack. We want confirmation if Jack is actually short for, what did you say, Jonathan?
John or Jonathan. but these parents that name the kids Jack are just,
Yeah. It's a strong name. That is taking the year worthy.
That wasn't from this year.
That was from April.
That was not from this past April. I want to say that's from years ago. Because
from April.
Maybe if our Jack is listening, because I swear that's not from this year.
He came up to us at the beginning of this year at where were we? HFL. And he had his driver's license. And he said, "See? Look! We're at the HFL Batavia game this year."
That was this year? Or was that last year?
It was this year. It was I'm just confirming the timestamp here that the Dandalorian sent me. It was, April 19th, 2023. Jack is not a real name. It's a good one. It's a great take.
I still think it's going to be Maggie Gray for the take.
Did we play that yesterday, Maggie Gray's?
We did. Yeah, this is the one. Like, a good take makes you stop in your tracks and go, oh, there's something there.
Is it mental? Man, I hope not. Because if it is, that means that solidifies probably something that maybe Bills fans and maybe the organization doesn't want to face, which is the 13 seconds game might have been the best shot. And I'm not willing to say yet that they're not going to have another great shot at this and that they're not going to have learned from those mistakes in that game and can be better for it. I'm not giving up. This hasn't beaten me down yet. Hell, we're Bills fans. We've been through worse. And I think if a few things can break right and they can start peaking at the right time at the end of the season, why not the Bills, really? I mean, we have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We still have a great defense despite some of the injuries. I'm saying we now, like I'm suiting up for the team. But I'm still with this team.
It's a great take. That was from when did we have her on?
October?
Yeah. It was at a time where we're like, okay, what's going on with this team? And a lot of people throughout the course of the offseason, you all heard it. The window is closing. Their window of opportunity is closing. The championship window is closed in Buffalo, blah, blah, blah. She's right. If the Bills are getting hot, if they peak here at the right time, the way we think they could here over the course of the next few weeks, and they do make the postseason, nobody's going to want to face Josh Allen with a chip on his shoulder. Nobody. When you look at the war of attrition that is the NFL this year in terms of quarterbacks that are still out there, you got just as good a chance with Josh Allen as you do with anybody. Love that take. We'll do take of the year before we close up shop for the year. When's our last show? A week from today?
That's it. Can you believe that?
Last show is a week from today. All right, we got to get to Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy Sports. We'll set your Week 15 lineups, get you a playoff victory in fantasy football next with Andy Behrens of Yahoo Fantasy in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. This holiday season, all your wishes are coming true on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of The Fan. This holiday season, you can get $150 in bonus bets. Right now, any winning $5 money line bet, that's $150 if your team wins. $150. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and you've got a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike. FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Kick off the NFL season and join me on FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You're listening. Update.
Bills back on the practice field this afternoon. We're waiting the Thursday injury report. In the meantime, Josh Allen speaking on attacking that Dallas Cowboys defense.
You can call it a zone because they're not really matching guys on first and second down, but it plays out like man. So, I mean, a lot of what they do on third down is man. So again, it's gonna take some individual battles, and we got to win those battles. And it's no easy task when you're playing against a team that's good.
It's the Bills and Cowboys, 4:25, the kickoff on Sunday. Our pregame coverage Sunday will begin at noon. We'll talk some fantasy football coming up next. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy joining us in the Sports Bar. Week 15 of the NFL season beginning tonight. It's the Chargers and Raiders from Vegas. Emmerich's in Hartford tomorrow night. Also on the road tomorrow night, the Sabres in Vegas. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
This isn't how I envisioned it, but when they selected me 5 years ago, this is what you want as a kid, is opportunity to go play, and so I'm excited for that.
LA Chargers quarterback Easton Stick.
Yeah.
Get familiar with the guy who might have the best name in all of sports. Although that sounds more like an NHL star's name, or more like the dad was looking at the corner of his garage. He saw an Easton Stick when his kid was born and thought, "Oh, there it is, Easton Stick."
It's more like a softball beer league name to me, too.
For sure. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, joining us in the Sports Bar. I mean, we're so excited to get Week 15 kicked off with this. You thought you couldn't top Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky? Easton Stick and Aiden O'Connell say, "Hold my beer." Andy, welcome back into the Sports Bar. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, you guys are missing all those Bears Thursday night games now, aren't you? Everybody's complaining about them. Now here we are. It's Aiden O'Connell against Easton Stick, a guy who was just completely made up. Incredible matchup. He's actually, credit to him, that as I've read about Easton Stick, and I knew very little about him, he exited college as the winningest FCS quarterback in the history of the level.
North Dakota State University. Only winners coming out of North Dakota State, buddy.
He's the guy who had the impossible task of following the brilliant career of Carson Wentz.
Correct.
The Bison. And he one-upped him. He did even better. He's a four-time national champ, so good for him. He's also probably going to be a rough watch tonight.
Yeah, rough watch. Like, Andy, fill us in here, because we're watching the Bills and Chiefs, most of us, and you're looking at your phone. Maybe you see this, like, wait a second, is this still scoreless? What is going on there? Like, what has happened here to this Raiders offense? We know the Chargers offense, okay. I guess I'll ask the question tonight. Davante Adams, if he goes, what are you playing tonight here, or is it just better just not to play anybody at all?
Yeah, this is really a rough one, and actually, I will say that it's difficult to talk about injuries this way, but injuries have taken some guys out of the equation this week, and thank goodness, right? Like, we don't have to wrestle with the Keenan Allen choice when Keenan was going to be tied to a quarterback that most of us are just learning about, right? And didn't look that great last week, so you don't have to worry about him. Devontae, you at least have a cover if you want to send Devontae to the bench, right? Because he hasn't practiced this week. He's been ill. Sounds like he's going to play. I'll tell you that in the few places where I actually have Davante Adams, I don't have a good backup option, so I've got to play him. But that quarterback situation has gotten pretty bad, and obviously earlier this week, Coach Pierce was non-committal about who was actually going to quarterback that team. Aiden O'Connell might not make it through the game, which maybe that's fine. He hasn't been great. They are coming off a game in which they did not score. So there's nothing exciting about that. And then if Josh Jacobs can't go tonight, which is a real possibility, then we're looking at some combination of Amir Abdullah and Zamir White. Zamir White has been like a really good preseason player who barely plays in the regular season. So it is very difficult to handicap this game, except to say that you can take unders across the board and not expect much.
Andy, Saturday is going to feel like a Sunday. We've got a triple header, and it starts with the Vikings visiting Cincinnati. Jake Browning feels and looks like a starting quarterback. Are you prepared to continue to push forward with your Bengal assets, knowing that Browning now has a couple of wins under his belt?
Yeah, pretty big relief, given the quality of Browning's play, because we thought that everybody was just going to crater on the Bengals side, and that hasn't been the case at all. You can play Chase, you can play Higgins, you can certainly play Joe Mixon. He looks great. The kid out of Illinois, the rookie running back, Chase Brown, has looked fantastic. And he's one of those guys who spent a little bit of time on IR, and so he's got fresh legs now, right? And he looks it. We get one or two of these rookie stories every season where they really get unleashed late in the year, and they look like they're just operating in a different gear than anybody else on the field. He was a tremendous collegiate player who just gave it to everybody in the Big Ten. So I've been really impressed with him over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Browning has been nearly flawless 2 weeks ago, and then he backed it up pretty well last week. So more difficult matchup here against a Minnesota defense that just rarely gives up points these days. So it's a tough spot for him, but you can feel pretty good about there's at least a soft landing for your Cincinnati fantasy assets.
Yeah, Andy, also one of those games, this will be the night game, Detroit hosting Denver. And if this was 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, be like, yeah, start everything out of Detroit. But is there any reason for concern what you've seen here out of Detroit recently? Is this a team that might be fading down the stretch, or do you view this coming up Saturday night with them being home against a defense that at times has sputtered? Is this a get right spot for Denver or for Detroit?
Yeah, it's it feels like a fade. I'll say that. And Detroit has they got some pretty frisky opponents down the stretch too. So this is going to get a little dicey. They've got the Vikings out there in a game that could really come down to maybe even the division. I don't feel great about the Lions. You can't sit Amon-Ra St. Brown because he just gets peppered with targets. The guy you can sit is Jared Goff, because Jared Goff hasn't been playing clean football lately. He's been giving away the ball. It hasn't been perfect. And Denver's defense, which has been vulnerable for most of the season, has at least gotten right against the pass for the most part. They're still very generous to opposing tight ends, so you can play Sam Laporta. They are super generous to opposing rushers. So I think you can still play Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery with confidence, but they have been pretty stingy overall against the pass. So I think Goff definitely has to go to the bench here.
Andy, the Chiefs are traveling to Foxborough. They're favored by just over a touchdown against New England. Given how the Chiefs are playing, I don't know that they're deserving of being favored by over a touchdown over anybody. And the Patriots kind of looked a little bit more like what we've known the Patriots to look like against, albeit a bad Steelers team, just last Thursday night. I'm curious about some of the matchups that we could exploit here in this game, because Isaiah Pacheco hasn't practiced yet. So what does that mean for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? And then on the other side, do we know anything about Ramondre Stevenson's long-term availability? Is it going to be another Zeke week for the Patriots? Because if you took the chance last week, it paid off.
Yeah, it is almost certainly going to be another Zeke week. We still haven't seen Ramondre back at practice. It would be a little surprising to me if he miraculously were able to go in this one. So I think you can start Zeke with confidence. You can start Demario Douglas in a full PPR, I think, on the New England side, because he's just seen a ton of targets, and you can kind of pencil him in for 6 or 7 catches. Beyond that, I wouldn't get too aggressive with anybody on the Patriots side. Something we talked about last week, and it surfaced in the Chiefs game. I mean, they just gotta funnel targets to only Kelsey and Rashee Rice and maybe Jerick McKinnon and nobody else, because it just simply does not work when they throw it other players, right? I went through the passer rating when targeted for Sky Moore. It's terrible for MVS, for Watson. It's just terrible. Nothing is working outside the top 2 guys. So you'd love to see them focus there.
Well, Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, is our guest. Andy, a lot of our talk in a real football sense here in Western New York. Hey, can the Buffalo Bills actually catch Miami? And the thing that helps Buffalo in that regard, hey, they played in the last week of the season, and head-to-head, they would get the tiebreaker. From a fantasy standpoint, would help Buffalo is actually if the Dolphins lost to the Jets. And they got really banged up. Not only lose against the Titans, coming out of that game, Tyreek Hill we're going to monitor. Certainly Chan with the toe injury we're going to monitor. So while we're monitoring all this other stuff, what do you do with the healthy parts of that offense right now, fantasy-wise, Andy?
Yeah, listen, Achane is a loss, but they have such depth at running back, and Raheem Mostert has been incredible this year. Like, it's wild that Raheem Mostert has made it this deep into the season, too, because the thing that we always traditionally worry about with him is injury, and here we are. It's week 15, and he's still with us, and he has 18 touchdowns. Like, he's been absolutely great. So the run game is still in force, and you can run against the Jets. It's very difficult to pass against them, but the thing with Tyreek is that he did return to that game last week, and I wouldn't expect him to practice much, but he did come back into that game, not for his full complement of snaps, but he played plenty. That's a really good sign. Also, the fact that he's chasing history is a really good sign. He's still on pace for 2,000 receiving yards on the year, so I'd expect him to go. And he's also, like, his best trait is just something that can't be matched by a defense, and it's really difficult to counter. He's just the fastest man in the game, so he's almost impossible to simply stop. So I think you go ahead and play him with confidence. You certainly play Mostert with confidence. All of a sudden, the Jets seem kind of frisky, though, right? Like, yeah. Zach Wilson was really good a week ago. Breece Hall is back. Garrett Wilson has been as good as anyone could have possibly expected, given the rogues gallery at quarterback. So they're a tough opponent. I mean, you might get what you need this week, at least out of the Jets.
There's a matchup in the early window on Sunday that doesn't have a real sexy over/under, but there's something about this matchup that screams to me that there might be some points. And I'm talking about the Saints hosting Tommy DeVito. Hey. He's Italian. You know he's going to go in there and get the win. Is there something to be said? Is there any kind of hidden fantasy gold in the matchup between DeVito's Giants and the New Orleans Saints?
Okay, one thing that we can feel pretty good about is it seems like Taysom Hill is going to return.
Good.
And that's exciting on the Saints side because he's a little bit of a cheat code at the tight end position in fantasy because, the guy, like his last healthy game, he had something like 15 touches. He has a passing touchdown, receiving touchdowns, rushing touchdowns this year, right? Like he's doing all the things. So he's somebody who, like, if he's going to do the usual Taysom Hill thing, he's a top 5 fantasy tight end. So that's exciting. On the Giants side, they may get Darren Waller back. That's a little something. It's been pretty spin the wheel in that receiving core, though. I think the one guy that you can trust to always catch 4, 5, 6 balls is Wan'Dale Robinson. Everybody else is basically a dice throw, however.
And so closer to home for us, and everything's fine since the Bills won this game, but Stephon Diggs was not really valuable in terms of helping your fantasy team win last week, although he did have 11 targets. So, Andy, the new offensive coordinator in Buffalo, Joe Brady, and the idea that they want to get more players involved, does that knock down Diggs in any way in the rankings this week or looking ahead to further in the playoffs?
Yeah, if people want to worry a little bit about the Cowboys' defense, I think that's fine. But Diggs has seen 11 targets in back-to-back games, and he's just a week removed, a game removed from scoring a touchdown. I'm not as scared as all the. I don't know. There's a lot of worry about Stephon Diggs right now. I write a weekly feature called The Panic Meter, and a ton of people wrote in this week about Stephon Diggs. But that's a function of the time of year. Everybody gets so hung up on. You're never more vulnerable to recency bias than you are right now. As we enter the fantasy playoffs, and you demand that your players give you a touchdown and 100 yards every week, and if they don't, you start to freak out about them. I still feel like the workload, by and large, has been there for Diggs, and we've seen that this Dallas defense, even though it's it can be vicious and it can be opportunistic. The best wide receivers have gone off against them, right? Like they're still giving up 80 plus yards to the Eagles receivers, and they're still giving up, big totals to pretty much every alpha receiver that they face. So I wouldn't sweat it too much with Diggs. I still think he's a wonderful player. I still think he's, top 6, 7 at the position overall. So I would just feel sick if I actually sat Stephon Diggs for that's the other thing. Who are you going to sit him for? You're going to sit him for Rashee Rice? Yeah. You're going to sit him for there's not many guys that I would sit Stephon Diggs for. I just think he's too good a player, and they'll figure it out.
Andy, I'm curious about Monday night. It's a compelling matchup, but wondering how the Eagles bounce back from losing at Dallas and what we can expect from A.J. Brown, DeAndre Swift against that Seahawks defense.
Yeah, this is a really fun game with a ton of fantasy implications, obviously, because I will say first of all that the Seahawks, their schedule over the closing weeks really sets up well. Philadelphia has been super generous. It's just not the defense that we thought it would be. Right, they're giving up 1 million fantasy points to opposing receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, everybody. So DK Metcalf can go off in this one. Lockett can go off in this one. It would be better if we got Geno Smith at quarterback, but I think Drew Lock is good enough to, perhaps not win a game, but at least support a couple of viable fantasy receivers. And then it's smooth sailing for the Seahawks down the stretch. So they're in a great spot. They need this game. Anybody can beat Philadelphia right now, I feel. So this is gonna be really a good one. You can run the ball at will against Seattle. That's been a major vulnerability. So could be a get right spot for DeAndre Swift, although he's been by and large a disappointment since September.
Yeah, as Andy, if you could settle in a debate we were having.
Andy, we're going to ask you to put on your judge's robe, get out that powdered wig. It's playoff season. Some of us are advancing. Some of us are playing in the consolation brackets.
Mike Danger.
Regardless, I am not a quitter. I don't think anybody should quit in fantasy football. That if there's a matchup to be had, that's a matchup you want to win, which means you go after who was on that waiver wire. You get the guy that's going to optimize your lineup. I've got a guy over here that thinks that's foul play, and it's not jock blocking if you're trying to get the W week in and week out, even if the games are kind of meaningless.
So here's the thing. If you play on Yahoo, we have a million different ways that we we kind of needle you throughout the season, right? We're giving you lineup grades all the time. We're changing your status between like diamond and platinum and gold and whatever else, right? So there are other things to play for on the platform. I get that. I generally think that as a courtesy, it is nice when the consolation bracket teams stay out of the waiver mix. I think it's fine to then add players after waivers run. It's a little aggressive to do it if you're a consolation bracket team, but so many leagues now have like last place punishments, or you may have a higher buy-in for finishing in last place. So if it's a situation like that and you are incentivized to sort of run through the tape at the end of the season, I think you got to do it.
I don't need those incentives, Andy. I just want to win every week.
No. See, that's the one. I think the commissioner at the beginning of the year should have the foresight, okay, once the playoffs start, you want to play in consolation, great, but your roster's frozen.
I'm commissioner, no fun. We're not going to have any fun, and we want you, when you lose, you lose. You're out. No. Stop playing after week 14.
Andy, I'm still alive in a guillotine. This is so much of a fun experience.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's like playing daily fantasy now. I have two guys that I started off with. So actually kind of in a way, it's selling me on the joy of daily fantasy here, because now it's wow, I could just have all these players, all the best players here and go at it.
Yeah, it's almost DFS with an unlimited budget, right? If you actually make it to the end of the season. I never do. I've always had fun with it. I think it's a really fun format. I think it was a great idea whenever it originated. But I'm about as good at that as I am at Survivor football. I just never win the thing in the end. I always spend my money too early. I make a few mistakes along the way, but I have made it, pretty deep into November before, but I don't think I've made it to December in a guillotine yet.
Andy, it's always great catching up with you here in the sports bar. Want to make sure everybody knows about what you got going on tonight before kickoff on Prime.
Yeah, love talking to you guys. We have Fantasy Football Live. It's going to run for 75 minutes tonight. We'll get started around 7 p.m. Eastern and take you right up to kickoff. Sit-start questions, all kinds of fun, all kinds of late-breaking news. So please check us out.
And I'm not making it up. You do have the judge's robe and the powdered wig. I've seen it. We've seen it before. I mean, it's got to make a comeback at some point, right?
I don't break out the wig weekly. I don't break out the gavel weekly anymore, but I do have it handy for important situations as they arise.
Very good. Andy, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy joining us in the sports bar, giving us some advice here as we get ready for Week 15, which gets underway tonight. The Chargers and the Raiders. Hit the under.
What's the over-under on Grumpy Al-isms tonight?
Oh, the week that he found out he's not going to call a game for NBC? Yeah, he's going to be grumpy. He's going to be, well, the only saving grace is he's in Vegas. So you can get a good steak in Vegas. Not a lot of vegetables in Vegas.
He can go play the tables afterward. He probably can enjoy himself a little bit. I thought originally this was in L.A., but remember this time last year was Raiders-Rams. He's complaining about the PA. This like old man yelling into the cloud sort of stuff.
Yeah, Grumpy Al. It was Grumpy Al being just upset at the PA guy at SoFi.
It's hard to tell what the crowd is right now. I think mainly Raiders a little bit, but you have a PA announcer here who incessantly screams whose house, and he wants them to say, well, no, I hate it. He wants them to say Rams house, but as far as the Raiders are concerned, well, this is kind of like their Airbnb.
Now, I don't make a habit of watching all of the LA Rams home games. I don't know that I'm hearing whose house as much as I used to since Al made that declaration.
Well, remember, it could be just the way that television mixes the audio too. Like, maybe it was just that night that was coming through on the Amazon feed. It could have been.
Oh, here's an idea for Amazon. Why not this guy tonight?
Blitz is picked up. Jones is open. Jackpot, baby! Vegas touchdown. This time, no doubt. Put it in the W column, baby. This one's over.
I mean, if you want to brighten up a dull matchup and you're worried about Grumpy Al, I mean, Brent can be grumpy, but he ain't grumpy when he's calling a game, baby.
Couldn't we just bring him back for one encore appearance? Why? Who wouldn't like that? Like, you're bringing in baby Noah?
Legend.
Noah Eagle's good, but I'd rather hear Musburger.
He's a legend.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Love that guy. All right, we got to get to a break here. Come back. Blogging the boys, RJ Ochoa at SB Nation. He'll be stopping by the sports bar here right around 4:25. We'll get the latest out of Dallas and continue to preview this matchup between the Bills and Cowboys. 4:25 Sunday afternoon. You'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester with our pregame coverage getting underway at 12 noon. That's on the way next in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across
HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Thursday injury report is out once again. AJ Epineza, Micah Hyde not practicing today. Josh Allen on facing Micah Parsons.
He's a heck of a challenge. You know, him and their D-line is really damn good. You know, they fly around. They got some guys that just absolutely wreak havoc. So we're going to have our hands full in our protection meeting. Make sure that we know where Levin is at all times.
Bills and Cowboys coming up 4:25, the kickoff on Sunday. We'll talk to RJ Ochoa from SB Nation's Blogging the Boys. That's coming up later this hour here on the Sports Bar. Week 15 of the NFL season beginning tonight. It's the Chargers and the Raiders. Amherst lose in the shootout to the Springfield Falcons. Hartford is the opponent tomorrow night. Sabres in Vegas. That's also tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We're focused on, obviously, what's right in front of us with Dallas this week. It's going to take a heck of an effort.
Let's go! Mike Danger.
Do you know who I am?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm so excited on the path that the Buffalo Bills are taking. They are the team of destiny.
I have a take, and I never suck. Bill Belichick, you are not the greatest coach of all time.
Yes.
It's the truth, and I don't even think he's in the top 5.
Thursday night football. Draymond Green headed for counseling because Green has been suspended indefinitely.
Giannis scored a Bucks record 64 points last night, then got into heated post-game exchanges with multiple Pacers over the game ball.
I think trolling and pettiness like this is exactly what makes the NBA great.
5-1 Colorado. They pull away in the third period with 2 goals.
Gulick brings it out on top, moves in backhander. Oh, Subban gets the glove on it, and it's over.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
He's one of only 4 quarterbacks this season with a 75% winning percentage and a passer rating greater than 95. Yet, nobody is discussing him for the league's MVP. I'll explain in a couple few as we dish out some takes on tap. Here in the Sports Bar, it's Danger and Battaglia, and we're glad you're listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. If you're listening in the Odyssey app, that's where we sound our best. It's free to download. You can watch the Sports Bar. Our stream is up at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, at The Fan Rochester on Twitch. Hell, we're even on your smart device. Just ask it to play 95.7 The Fan.
Yeah, we'll talk to RJ Ochoa coming up here later this hour. He's one of our favorites. He'll give us some insight here on the Cowboys, get his thoughts on this matchup coming up this week. And he's not a Cowboy fan or anything like that. He's going to call it right down the middle here. So
I'd like to point out that there is potential for history repeating itself in the NFL right now. And I'm not saying it's going to happen exactly the way this other scenario happened, because nothing ever repeats itself identically. But we've definitely seen this movie before. Hear me out on this, Gino. In Cincinnati, September 16th, 2023, they awarded their franchise quarterback with, at the time, the most lucrative deal in the league, a 5-year extension worth $275 million. The belief is that this contract will keep Joe Burrow, a former number 1 overall pick, as their quarterback for his entire career. Now, Burrow hurt his wrist. He's out for the season. In 2001, a quarterback named Drew Bledsoe signed a 10-year, $103 million deal, which at the time was the richest in the NFL. The belief was this contract would keep Bledsoe, a former number 1 overall pick, in New England for his entire career. Well, thanks to Mo Lewis, Bledsoe ended up sidelined for the remainder of that year. The guy named Tom Brady stepped in. Now, I'm not saying that Jake Browning is Tom Brady.
Stop. Can I give you the Brian Daboll? I'm looking at you with my eyes. I'm like, come on, really? Where are you going?
I'm not saying Jake Browning is Tom Brady, but there are a lot of similarities. Jake Browning has a ton of experience, more experience in college than Brady, as a matter of fact. 53 career starts playing at the University of Washington. Before that, he threw for 229 touchdowns in high school, 91 touchdowns in his senior season alone. You might hear that stat from time to time. Tom Brady had a ton of experience playing at Michigan, 30 career starts. Both played at blue blood Power 5 programs with rich tradition and history. Tom Brady, of course, a 6th-round pick. Browning went undrafted. Both men were written off. Both men knew that they could play in the NFL. In 2001, the Patriots started 1-3. In 2023, the Bengals started 1-3. The Pats got to 5-5. They ran the table. They ended up beating the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, as a 13.5-point underdog in the Super Bowl. This season, the Bengals were at 5-6. They've won 2 games in a row now with Jake Browning, and they're at 7-6, farting around in the playoff picture, led by their defenses, game managers, experienced quarterbacks with talent at the skill positions who won't make mistakes and take what the defense gives them. Don't write off the Bengals. These similarities are intriguing to me. That's all I'm saying. There's similarities. They're intriguing to me. I'm not comparing Browning to Brady, but there are a lot of similarities between the two stories.
No, because like Brady was kind of a victim of going to Michigan.
No!
I do not sound like that.
Go ahead. Victim going to Michigan?
Well, Lloyd Carr is an idiot. Like Lloyd Carr, he was the better quarterback, but did not see that. So Brady just didn't get a fair shake, and credit at least the Patriots for saying, you know what, this kid has something. Let's just spend a late round pick on him. Where like you're rattling off all these stats, or Browning, why didn't he even get drafted? That's what I would wonder. Jake Browning, I think he is setting himself up nicely for next year. Why? He's a free agent, and we haven't even gotten to the bridge quarterback, because you want to draft a young quarterback, but what do you do if that young quarterback isn't ready? Like Jake Browning would fit the category for any number of these teams, whether that's the Patriots or whoever else may need a quarterback.
I'm not convinced that he's a bridge quarterback. I'm not convinced that he shouldn't be a full-time starter in the NFL. I'm not convinced that right now Jake Browning isn't better than a lot of the guys that are making a lot more money, that are more highly Derek Carr? I would take Jake Browning today.
Well, you missed another thing here too. It's Jake Browning revenge game. Like the Vikings let this guy slip through their fingers.
There's a bunch of teams that let him slip through. Like nobody wanted this guy. A kid that throws 91 touchdown passes his senior year of high school. I want to know more about that guy.
No, he spent 2 years on the Vikings practice squad. And looking at all the transactions here, this guy has been in the league since 2019.
His resume is Swiss cheese. I get it. But he's getting an opportunity. He's making the most of the opportunity. He looks poised. He's you can call a game manager if you want. He's just not making mistakes. And I think there are a lot of teams right now that I would say I would rather have Jake Browning than Desmond Ridder, than any quarterback in the NFC South.
Let's see when the league catches up. Like you were saying with DeVito yesterday, which I agree. Tommy DeVito, fantastic story, a lot of fun. Okay, it's been, like Daboll said, it's been 4 games. All right, let's see what happens here in December.
I'm not going to write off the Bengals, though. I can't do it.
You can't do it because there they are farting around. They may lose the Minnesota.
They could be a problem. They could be a problem down the stretch.
Listen to Tasker today. He had the same take we had in the sports bar about Bill Belichick. Look, it's over in New England. Can we just kind of agree? But you're not going to fire Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick, he's not his DNA to quit here. So there he is, kind of playing out the string. And look, a lot of things connecting to the Chargers. The Chargers' job, very enticing. By the way, technically, it's not even open yet. Okay, that's the funny part. But Tasker essentially said this: don't be surprised by Belichick's next move. We all assume he's going to go somewhere else and be a head coach in the NFL. Maybe not. Remember,
I don't assume that.
Well, look, and this is my take here. Remember Joe Gibbs? Like, he went into NASCAR. What? Why? Well, in part because, kind of felt guilty he's not spending enough time with his kids trying to make it up one by one. Then he got back into football later on. I mean, Bill Belichick, Navy football wouldn't surprise me. D3 lacrosse Would not surprise me. Or just going on the public speaking tour would not surprise me. I think Belichick's next move is going to be fascinating.
The notion that the Patriots could trade Bill Belichick, like I know that's something that they're probably trying to work out. Like if you're Bill Belichick, why would you go for that? Why would you be like, oh yeah, you're going to just trade me to whoever wants to offer you the highest bid? That ain't going to happen, right? We can kind of scratch that from a list of possibilities.
The only way I could see it is if there's some unbelievable kickback by Kraft on the other end. I'm talking like, all right, like when this is all done, you get something that you don't have a salary cap for coaches. Okay, but what if Kraft gave him a piece of a company or something? I don't see Belichick doing that. That man has earned the right. You don't trade a head coach unless it's something like, hey, I want to go to Tampa. You can't go to Tampa, and then you're held up for 3 months. Talking about the Gruden trade years ago.
Right. It will be fascinating. The storyline will be fascinating, and that's another team that down the stretch here, I don't think they're going to quit. I don't think there's quit in their game, and they could give the Chiefs some problems this weekend.
I'm not scared, though. Ooh, fear. December 31st, mean Bill Belichick is going to ruin New Year's Eve for Bills fans.
We'll see how the Bills look. We'll see if that game has some weight to it or not. Chances are it will, and the Bills will need every win they can get here down the stretch. The Patriots, though, hosting the Chiefs this weekend does have a little bit more compelling.
It's in Kansas City.
It is?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty sure.
So let's double check.
Who's right?
I've got it in New England.
Oh, damn it. All right.
Is it in New England?
It's in New England. My bad.
It's all right. But like just given what we've seen recently in the last 2 weeks on a 2-game losing streak out of Kansas City, angry, sad Patrick Mahomes, everything about it screams. Again, we talk about spots. Who's got the momentum? Right now, you could argue the Patriots have the momentum. And they're not as talented. They could cause some problems for Kansas City. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Another compelling matchup coming up on Sunday. Here's a name that we aren't discussing enough for league MVP. Hear me out. This quarterback has a 100 or greater passer rating in each of the last 3 games. No quarterback has as long of an active streak. He has the second highest passer rating in the last 4 weeks, behind only Brock Purdy, but ahead of Dak Prescott. His passer rating right now is a CMF, 96.5, higher than Jalen Hurts, higher than Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, and Geno Smith. He has the second highest TD percentage, a 75% winning percentage. He's one of only 4 quarterbacks this season with a 75% winning percentage and a passer rating greater than 95. The others on this list are Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Lamar Jackson. He has game-winning drives in 50% of his starts. He's second behind only C.J. Stroud in combined passing and rushing touchdowns by a rookie with 9.
9 times.
He leads the league in mileage. No one has to travel less from home to work, and he's easily the leader in CPD. That's a new advanced metric you've probably never heard of, Gino. That's CPD, cutlets per day. Most importantly, Tommy DeVito needs to be in the MVP conversation because he's Italian. Voters, do the right thing. Some quarterbacks worry about sacks. The DeVito family leads the league in whacks. You want to mess with this guy? Look at his agent. Give my client what Danny Boy got, or else, you know, I'm gonna have to make some calls. I'm gonna have to call some guys. And Jones started the season 1-5. DeVito is 3-1. The Giants are just 1 game out of wild card contention. They're farting around. Why? Tommy freaking DeVito. Tommy Cutlets MVP because he's Italian.
Okay. Part of your tongue is in the cheek, but I think there's something to this. Like, we just expect this to, capsize and like, boy, that was a lot of fun. What if it didn't? Like, what if they go to New Orleans and win this week and they're still farting around? What if they have to go to Philadelphia in 2 weeks and the Eagles are kind of reeling right now? Let's be honest. Would it surprise any of the Eagles actually went out to Seattle and lost? Wouldn't surprise me. We just talked to Andy Behrens. He thinks that's possible. what if this story continues? We just expect this to kind of end, and you go back to being a second or third string guy. And
I really love being in the moment of these stories, right? Because it's so much fun. The last time we went through something like this, I want to go back a few months. It was in college football. It was Dion. The what if? Like, my God, they beat TCU, and they did it in a way, and oh my God, they took care of Nebraska. Like, you start to think, and then they played some really good teams, and they got figured out, and the injuries caught up to them, and eventually they have a really kind of poor season. They're not even playing in a bowl game.
Okay, maybe that's a good analogy but we all expect Dion next year, building around him.
High expectations, for sure.
Like, what if there is something to DeVito where he could actually improve? Like, if you're the Giants, that's like, if he continues and maybe the Giants don't get in the postseason, that's a full-on quarterback battle, right? You don't hand the job back to Daniel Jones. I'm not kidding. The money would say yes.
The money says yes. That's the only reason why. But, I mean, it's hard to close that door now that he's got his foot wedged in it, because you see how the team reacts to him. You see how the fans react to him. You're winning games. You weren't doing that with Daniel Jones. You kind of were forced to pay Daniel Jones. He's not worth it. We all know he's not worth it. I love the story. I love being in the moment of the story. I don't know how long it's going to last, but let's enjoy the ride while we have it.
No, listen, Giant fans should be, wow, this is unexpected. I'm having a lot of fun.
That's it.
Yeah, where the Bills end up on Saturday Night Live because, well, you don't want to be in Weekend Update for a joke.
Yeah.
Like, did you see, like, they made Jimmy Fallon last night?
Yeah, they did make Fallon. What do we got here? We got a Tommy DeVito song here. Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show.
When your man throws a bomb but still is with his mom, that's DeVito. When he has quite the arm and wolfs down chicken parm, that's DeVito. Making plays Sunday and Monday, lives a mile away. Football's Leonardo da Vinci. He will win ring-a-ling-a-ling, ring-a-ling-a-lings, and wear them on his pinky. That's another game won, but your pop says, Maron, do the dishes. Do the dishes. If you tackle my man, I'll call Paulie. You'll sleep with the fishes.
All right, it was good. I was worried about it, but they, the mob references at the end hooked me in. That was good.
Yeah,
I liked it. Do the dishes.
Maron, do the dishes.
Maron, do the dishes. How do you not love that? How do you not love the family? The agent kissing the old man kissing the agent. I mean, these guys, they're enjoying this moment so much. It's such a fun story.
What happens now? Do old cast members of The Sopranos actually show up to one of these games and they'll stick with the family?
You know what they did when he got announced? They played The Sopranos theme song. I mean, it's fantastic. They're completely buying into it.
It actually makes me want to go back and watch The Sopranos over the holidays, right?
You know what? I'll confess, when The Sopranos originally came out, I remember watching a few episodes, but I wasn't a diehard. There's a lot of people that loved that show from the very beginning, and I can't say that I was one of those guys. But I liked it. I didn't love it. I went back and I watched it. I think it was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were all kind of shut in, and we were all looking for things to consume because there was no sports. And they were offering, I think they were offering HBO Go for free or something like that. And I'm like, I'm going to binge The Sopranos. And dude, watching that show as the father of two daughters, completely different filter, love it. One of the best shows, obviously one of the best shows of all time. You can't beat that show. It's so good. And watching it with a different appreciation as a dad and watching Tony struggle with everything that he has to balance, including his pain in the ass kids. Man, fantastic show.
The mother, the rivals, everything. And that's the hallmark of a great show is we are so invested in this character. And that character's a bad guy. He kills people, but yet we're all pulling for him.
Right. And who knows? I mean, if DeVito doesn't get what he wants.
Oh, no, we're not going to convert to being a Giant fan, right? No.
If DeVito doesn't get what he wants, you never know. I mean, we worry about Joe Shane. I worry about Brian Daboll. Daboll, do the right thing. Joe Shane, you know what you need to do. Do the right thing. Don't make me make a phone call.
Do you think Dino Babers is privately rooting against Tommy DeVito because the more he wins, the more SU football looks incompetent? Honestly, if this story keeps going.
Yeah, but is there something to guys being late bloomers?
He shouldn't have been. The first time we had, honestly, I could pull the audio. The first time we had Dino Babers on, he had this prize recruit from Don Bosco Prep.
Yeah.
Asked him about Tiny Field. He flicked away the question. Like, okay, I'm not talking about some freshman.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
4 years at Syracuse. Didn't really make a name for himself with the Orange.
No. Then 1 year at Illinois, and that he's okay. Go somewhere else, and you get an opportunity.
One year in a real college football conference.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, Florida State knows it. That's why they tried to get out. Everybody else kind of knows it. That's why they're not being taken seriously. But yeah, you play 1 year in the Big Ten, and now you're turning heads. Even though he went 6-4 with the Illini that year. Late bloomer, possibly. Just a great story. A lot of fun. I'm in. Tommy Cutlett's MVP because he's Italian.
Are you doing the 7 fishes on New Year's Eve?
Come on. What kind of question is that?
Okay, the dumb question?
Yes. Yes, we're doing the 7 fishes. Why do you think I'm working out like a maniac every day? I can't. I got to be able to eat without guilt, Gino. I'll leave that house on Christmas Eve 5 to 10 pounds heavier. 7 fishes, all the desserts, the platters and platters of cookies. Follow it up with a prime rib roast on Christmas Day. Breakfast, Christmas morning for the kids. I mean, dude, it's a marathon.
You want to talk about fine television? I did make it through season 2 of The Bear, that Christmas episode.
Oh,
holy mackerel!
Ooh.
That's the best thing on television.
Yeah, that is. I mean, look, if you're trying to get into the holiday spirit, maybe wait until after the holidays to watch that episode.
Or if you had any little bit of a dysfunction in your family, it's going to scare you.
If you want to stir up some childhood trauma, yeah, go ahead and watch that one because that is. Woof.
You'd have to make the investment of season 1 to season 2. You just can't skip ahead to the Christmas episode.
Pretty fantastic episode.
Yeah.
You're right. All right, RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys. We're going to talk Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo Bills with RJ next in the Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester. Surprise your loved ones this holiday season with the gift of self-care by giving them a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte. A gift card allows that special someone to indulge in one of their signature spa treatments, bask in their salon services, and treat themselves to the many luxurious products in the spa at the Del Monte's boutique. Visit them at the spa at the Del Monte or purchase a gift card instantly at delmontespa.com. And happy holidays from the spa at the Del Monte.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.
Sports Update.
For the second straight day, AJ Epinesa and Micah Hyde did not practice today. Bill's getting ready for the Cowboys. Josh Allen talking about attacking that Dallas defense.
You can call it a zone because they're not really matching guys on first and second down, but it plays out like man. So, I mean, a lot of what they do on third down is man. So, again, it's gonna take some individual battles, and we got to win those battles. And it's no easy task when you're playing against a team that's good.
Bills and Cowboys, 4:25, the kickoff on Sunday. Our pregame coverage will begin at noon. We'll talk to RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys. That's coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Week 15 of the NFL season beginning tonight. It's the Chargers and the Raiders out in Vegas. The Amerks losing last night in Springfield. They're in Hartford tomorrow night. Sabres road trip continues tomorrow night as well. They're in Vegas. G. Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Or on the rocks. It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's not going to be the warmest of days/nights, and what a home team and a home crowd can do to an opposing offense is what we need. We need Bills Mafia to be loud. We need Bills Mafia to show up in numbers and be ready to root us on, because we absolutely need them, this game especially. So any false start, any delay of game, and even just the energy and the flow of what's going on, we feed off of Bills Mafia. So that's going to be a huge part of how we attack and how we win this game is going to be with the crowd.
You'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester. Pre-game starts at 12 noon Sunday. The Cowboys coming in to Highmark Stadium. We welcome in RJ Ochoa, SB Nation's blogging the boys. Whenever we talk Cowboys, we love having RJ on with us. And RJ, earlier this season, I was a little critical of Dallas. They had a nice little start, and I'm like, guys know, if you're a Cowboy fan, how this goes. The letdown is coming. Don't get excited. And the week that I said that was the week that they lost to Arizona. I didn't expect that letdown to happen then, and since then, you take away that Niners disappointment. I mean, it's hard to find holes in this defense, in this team. It really is. Like, there's not a lot to not like about where the Cowboys are right now. So I guess my question is the letdown coming?
It's great to be with you guys. I love the Bills just kind of in general, but mostly because of you all. Yeah, I mean, the Niners game was really embarrassing, and I'll tell you, the week after, everything kind of felt pointless. It felt like, man, what are they doing this for? Because at some point, in the playoffs, conceivably, they're going to have to go through them. And if there's a clear ceiling on this team, then again, why are we wasting all of this time? And even though the Cowboys lost in Philadelphia, I think a lot of people felt like they were the better team. I think that Dallas, sort of corroborated that idea this past Sunday, and so they haven't really played a close game. I mean, they beat the Chargers 20-17, and obviously Seattle on Thursday Night Football, kind of went 10 rounds, but for the most part, they have been very comfortable, thriving, and I think that's why a lot of Cowboys fans are afraid of this game. I think I speak for the fan base in saying this is the game that we're all the most afraid of as far as the remaining ones on the regular season schedule, and it's because of Josh Allen. It's because of what Bills Mafia represents, and I mean, as great as they've been, I think we share that sentiment. Like, the shoe has to drop, the ride has to end, and what better place for that to kind of happen than one of the more magical environments in the NFL?
Yeah, RJ, I appreciate the kind words. I think all Bills fans do. Like, the one thing that, from where we sit, that seems different, a lot of things, but the one at the top of my list is Dak Prescott. If the Cowboys win this game, hard for me to not imagine him winning the MVP. So, just kind of a broad question: how has Prescott been able to take his game to this level this year, RJ?
I certainly think that Dak has played at this level before. I mean, this is his 8th season in the NFL. He's the longest tenured starting quarterback in the league. And so we've seen these highs, but obviously not at this sustained level. And it all really did kind of change with that San Francisco loss. Dak and CeeDee Lamb, very notably, went to Mike McCarthy, said, hey, we would prefer X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people bag on McCarthy for, listening to his best offensive players, but he did, and the results have kind of spoken for themselves. And I think that, a lot of Cowboys fans hold the 2014 season near and dear to their hearts. I don't know how well you remember that Cowboys season, but that was the Des Cottet year. And that was the season in which Tony Romo finally reached this incredible cerebral understanding of the game. And it feels like Dak Prescott is there. But unlike Romo then, he has the physical body to withstand the withers and the rhymes and rhythms of an NFL season. And in that note, or in that vein, we've seen Dak Prescott open things up and be more willing to run. That had been an element of his game that had been absent kind of since the ankle injury 3 years ago. And so all that, is working in his favor, as is having an aggressive play caller in Mike McCarthy and having a superstar wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb and a proper running mate opposite of him in Brandon Cooks and an emerging tight end in Jake Ferguson. Oh, and one of the better defenses in the NFL on the other side of the ball. I mean, he has all these safety nets, and he's an aggressive player and thrower by nature, so it's just kind of steering in the proper direction.
Talk a little bit about the job that McCarthy has done specifically with Dak, because I think a lot of us thought, Kellen Moore is leaving and Mike McCarthy is going to take on play calling. Oh, God, he can't handle all of that. It's too much. Now, I know you've got Dan Quinn on the defensive side of the ball, so if you're Mike McCarthy, you have another head coach on this roster or on your coaching staff that doesn't need you to check in. He knows what he's doing. But McCarthy, it feels like to me, has done a remarkable coaching job this year. Just when you watch and see what he's gotten out of Dak, something we've never seen out of Dak in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I know that McCarthy has this national perception of being this O for whatever, and his greatest crime is probably losing a PR battle to Aaron Rodgers in really public fashion, and that really did kind of shape and mold a lot of people's opinions about him. And I'm not here to tell you that he's perfect, but he really has changed not just the way Dak Prescott plays, but the overall culture of the team. The Cowboys won their 10th game of the season last week. It is their third straight year with double-digit wins, the first time they've done that since the mid-'90s, and I'll tread carefully here because I understand what happened around then. They're on the verge of being a playoff team for the third straight season for the first time since the mid-'90s. I mean, they have a 15-game home winning streak going. I mean, they haven't really played a close game. It similarly to me feels like when Sean McDermott arrived in Buffalo. Obviously, there had been this really long drought, and McDermott came in and kind of changed the tide, and Josh Allen's arrival obviously helped with a lot of that. And I know that neither of these teams have gotten over the hump, but you have to be grateful for those little runs. And as it relates to Dak, I do think that, we hesitate to give Mike McCarthy any credit for what Aaron Rodgers accomplished with him in Green Bay, but maybe he's kind of good at this. He's worked with all sorts of amazing quarterbacks in the past. Joe Montana, obviously early on in his career, Aaron Brooks in New Orleans, and Brett Favre in his early days in Green Bay, and all quarterbacks have thrived under him. He understands, I think, how to feel things in a proper way, but also how to poke at weaknesses and how to attack and how to scheme guys open. And having players, again, like Lamb and Cooks and Ferguson are just extensions of Dak and what he's able to do. And I think his biggest thing is he trusts Dak. And he trusts Dak because he knows he can trust his defense. He can trust everything around him and let his quarterback play in a free sense.
We're talking to RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys. One player in Dallas we're familiar with, Stephon Gilmore. And Stephon, player that, the Bills, last decade they mismanaged their cap. They didn't pay Gilmore. And then a few years later, he's the defensive player of the year in New England. That was in 2019. And usually you don't see a corner's life cycle here, so to speak, kind of, 4 years later, kind of rekindling this play. How has Gilmore been able to bounce back here and deliver this level of play, RJ?
I'll say that early on it was rough, and I don't really hold that against him because when the Cowboys traded for him in the offseason, the vision was, okay, we're going to pair this dude with our superstar in Trayvon Diggs, who I know you are all big fans of in that area, particularly his social media.
Time out. Stop. No, Stephon is ours. You can have but go ahead. All
right. Anyway, so when Trayvon was hurt, unfortunately, at the beginning of the season, that kind of thrusted Gilmore into this, premier top cornerback role, which again, as amazing of a player and future Hall of Famer as he is, that's just not who he is in 2023. And the first game that he had to play in that role was the Cardinals game that you mentioned. And, I wouldn't say it was a big reason, but definitely a reason why Dallas got pushed all over. And the emergence of Deron Bland, obviously everybody's well familiar with what he's done and the pick six record and things like that. That has really stabilized the waters and allowed, obviously, Bland to kind of fill this role of premier corner and premier person you have to avoid and put Gilmore back in that 1B role. And that's a place, again, where they envisioned him shining. And last week was a great example of that. He has the intellect and the, again, cerebral understanding of the game and still has the physical tools, maybe not that he did, obviously, in his, prime days, but enough to obviously contend and stop, even the best wide receivers in the NFL. for the most part, he shut down both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith last week, which was impressive.
Let's talk a little bit more about the defense. You mentioned Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator. Guy could be probably a head coach again this offseason if he wants to take that opportunity. And I think he had those opportunities this past offseason, but decided to opted to stay in Dallas, which looks like a smart move when you consider what he's been able to accomplish with this defense. But how much of that success for Dan Quinn is centered around the fact that you might have the best defensive player in the game in Micah Parsons?
Yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn arrived in 2021, and like 3 months later, the Cowboys drafted Micah. So they've been, a duo for the entire duration here throughout this, amazing 3-year run. I certainly think that Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit. I think if you were to ask my followers or listeners or readers, I'm a little bit hard on Dan Quinn because he does kind of tend to walk on water as it relates to Mike McCarthy. We're just 2 weeks removed from the Seahawks not punting once against the Cowboys. I mean, and they entered that game, Seattle did, having not scored an offensive touchdown in 7 consecutive quarters. But again, they walked all over Dan Quinn's mighty defense. And, look, everybody has a bad day and everybody gets out-coached and whatever. I don't think that Dan Quinn is anything worse than, one of the top 5 defensive play callers in the NFL. But what has made him so great is if anybody leans into the talent he has, it's Dan Quinn. I mean, he has zero qualms playing aggressive, letting the dogs loose, unleashing the hounds. I mean, he wants to end you. And I think that is exemplified in what happened last week. 1 week after, one NFL round after, not forcing a single punt, they didn't allow a single offensive touchdown. And obviously the Eagles are kind of struggling. I really wish the Bills had managed to beat them. But, neither here nor there. But still, to limit any NFL offense in this league to not scoring a single touchdown is an incredible work of art. And so Dan Quinn he knows how to press the right buttons. He really is a master motivator.
Funny, like it was 4 years ago, RJ, that you could see the Bills kind of building, but are they good? Are they not good? And you're not getting any primetime games. This was a big deal of Thanksgiving Day, and the Bills won in Dallas. Like, wait a second, they actually might be good, and they end up going to the postseason. Funny how 4 years, now we fast forward, and high expectations here in Buffalo. I thought it was kind of curious, the comment from Jerry Jones this week saying the team caught a break, that, they're not going to get caught in a blizzard here. Like, what is the thought? Does everybody think it snows all the time, or it's going to be cold and windy all the time? You catch a break because it's going to be 40 and rain. That's not bad. You played in Philadelphia. You can play in this coming up this Sunday.
Yeah, I do think that that's probably the kind of stereotype that maybe most NFL fans have of Buffalo. And for what it's worth, when the Cowboys last visited Orchard Park in 2015, it was a really gross day. I don't know the exact weather conditions, but I think that's everyone's worst fear. And this is the last, potentially really cold game of significance that the Cowboys will play. Obviously, a lot of that depends on how the playoffs shake out, but yeah, and they're an indoor team. Look, they're soft. Right? They've won 15 games in a row in their home building, and so they've gotten really used to it. And for what it's worth, they've been there for a very long time. The last game that the Cowboys played on the road was the Sunday all the way before Thanksgiving when they went to Carolina. So getting out of bed and having to go to one of the colder climates in the country isn't the way you want to wake up.
RJ, I want to go back to a guy that you talked about for a second earlier in our conversation. When you talk about offensive weapons for the Dallas Cowboys, everybody knows about Dak. Everybody knows about CeeDee Lamb. The guy that makes me nervous on Sunday, if he's got this in his game, and I think a lot of good tight ends know that in the Bills' kind of zone defense, if you find the soft areas and the soft bellies of the defense, you can make hay if you're a tight end. Tell us about the season Jake Ferguson has had.
Yeah, I didn't believe, if I'm being totally honest with you, because I think a lot of people just thought, this will happen because it's going to, because Dalton Schultz is gone and Jake Ferguson's now the starter. And, Jake had a promising rookie year in really limited action, but he is an animal. I mean, I do think you have to have a bit of a disposition to be a chaotically good tight end, and Jake fits that mold. I know how this will sound, so I don't mean to be like a super homer, but he has kind of the best qualities of both Travis Kelce and George Kittle, in that he is a vertically talented athlete like Kelce, but he is this kind of psycho like George Kittle that could be physical and that not just can, but wants to run you over. He gets all kind of involved in the chip game, in the run blocking. I mean, he just wants to get his hands dirty. I don't know if you've seen the photo today circulating. He's dunking his hands in ice water to prepare, for the super cold 41 degrees that you mentioned, obviously. And so he really, though, has materialized into something powerful for Dak Prescott. And Dak has had a lot of success with tight ends over the course of his career. And, honestly, the best ball that Dak throws is the seam route right down the middle of the field. And if you give him an inch, to him being Dak Prescott, he will find Jake Ferguson. He will trust that. And so I would not put it past this team to be in a situation where, one moment in time, Dak hits Jake Ferguson for a 27-yard gain and breaks everybody's will and spirit, because that's something they do almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah, RJ, if I could go back in time, I would have gone back to maybe 2018 here, maybe, because, I didn't know this at the time, but our soccer stadium is about, it's a 2-minute drive from our studios here, basically. It's right around the corner. And... the Bethlehem Steel, Toronto FC 2. This is the league our team was in. Brandon Aubrey. Like, if it's not for Tommy DeVito, we're talking about Brandon Aubrey as being the feel-good story here of the year. How did the Cowboys find this player?
Yeah, this one's weird. And this is one where I wouldn't say I gave the coaching staff the benefit of the doubt, but if you recall, Brett Maher was the Cowboys kicker last year, and he was awesome in the regular season. He just melted down in the playoffs, and that was what everybody, unfortunately saw and remembered. And so when the Cowboys went to training camp, it was Brandon Aubrey and Lareem Hairulahu who were their two options. And everybody was like, come on, guys, take this seriously. And lo and behold, he's just turned into this, insane weapon. I don't know if you're aware, he has missed 3 extra points. He actually missed his first one ever. The Cowboys had a return score in Week 1 against the Giants, not too far from you, obviously, and he missed that first extra point, which was really strange. But he shattered, or has shattered, the NFL record for most consecutive field goals made to start a career. It was 19, and now he's at 30, and obviously kicking them from all the way downtown. He's been a revelation, and he is a weapon. I think Sunday night was a great example of how Mike McCarthy trusts him and is willing to kind of put the ball behind his leg, although the conditions outdoors, even if it isn't super cold, obviously impact that to some degree.
RJ, I'm curious. I know we still have a lot of week to go here before we get to Sunday afternoon. Have you given the matchup thought enough to make a prediction? Which way do you see this leaning? I sense a little trepidation in your voice about the Cowboys, and you might not like this spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't love going into like a really desperate Bills team. I know that obviously Buffalo won last week despite all the shenanigans and whining and complaining from the Kansas City area, which is the silliest thing ever. If I can curry favor, I can't believe that was ever a story. But anyway, I mean, it's just the Cowboys have won 5 in a row, and you can make an argument that they should have won 8 in a row if not for the Philadelphia loss. And so it's like, are they really just going to win out, across the regular season? That seems like the shoe has to drop at some point, even if it's not getting blown out. But, they're on the wrong end of a heroic Josh Allen play or something like that. I like their chances against Miami, who they visit next week, or in Detroit, who they host the week after, or obviously at FedEx Field in the final week of the regular season, more than I do this one. If I had to predict the loss the Cowboys will have over the final 4 weeks, it's this one. I mean, they're in the house of a really determined, seasoned, experienced team. My great hope is that, and again, I love you all very much, but that Sean McDermott finds a way to kind of throw this away the way he's come close to doing over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's our fear too, RJ. Danger, I invited RJ. Like, RJ, the offer stands here, bud. Like, I think there are spots in the NFL you got to make at some point. Trips to Lambeau, maybe a trip to Chicago. Buffalo has to be on that list. We would roll out the red carpet for you here, bud. But I know, month of December might be a tough sell. Maybe next time it'll be September here for you.
My dad and I used to make it a yearly thing to go to a road trip, Cowboys game every year. But my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old son, and he just complicates everything because now it's all about him. He's super selfish with all of our attention and resources. So I don't think my wife would have been thrilled with taking our 2-year-old to those conditions in December, especially right before Christmas. I think we're supposed to go shopping on Saturday. I just really just go where I'm told.
Yeah, RJ, you sound like a young Gene Battaglia, young Mike Danger.
That's it.
I think we've been there, buddy. We know what you're going through. And yeah, those selfish kids always eating up all your time. God, they're the worst.
Oh, wait till they eat up all your money, too.
Yeah, it's great. RJ, tell us a little bit more about Blogging the Boys, where you can get more Cowboys content out of you. You do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, when we're not wrestling my child, we're just pumping out Dallas Cowboys content. I'm so blessed that this is my job and that I get to do it every day from home. with my dogs licking my toes and whatnot. So blogoftheboys.com. You can hit me up anywhere at RJ Ochoa. Those are kind of hubs for all of my content. Really great chatting with you guys. I certainly had missed it. I wish you health, wealth, and happiness, but sports misery on Sunday. And if I don't talk to you, Merry Christmas and a happy holidays and Happy New Year to you and your families.
Thanks, RJ. You're the best. Appreciate it. RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys.
All class. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Great having him on, and nice to get a little perspective there on the Dallas Cowboys. And I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you have to be a little bit nervous about this matchup, about this spot. Could it be a letdown spot where the Cowboys have been playing well for a good period of time here, but you look at a softer part of the schedule here to end the season? Do you let your foot off the gas on the road against a team like Buffalo that when they're on, they're on?
Can I just point out one thing he said, though, if it's a close game? This isn't the narrative here locally, okay? This
we don't make it up.
No, this isn't mean Ty Dunn writing a character assassination. This is the narrative around the country that Sean McDermott can screw things up.
He almost did again last Sunday.
Right.
And even with the win, look, winning is one hell of a deodorant, but at the end of the first half, did you feel good about how that ended? With Josh Allen look over the sidelines like, guys, what are we doing? Not knowing whether or not you're going to go for it, kick a field goal, or throwing a Hail Mary. What are we doing? Guys, what are we doing?
Or like the end of the game there where, hey, let's run the clock down. No, we're
let's
not
not run
do
the clock
down.
Yeah, let's leave plenty of time for them to go all the way down the field. Yeah, look, I think because they won, we were forgiving a lot of the same mistakes. It's like when the pressure gets ratcheted up, they look more and more discombobulated, look more and more confused. The easiest way for them to win their games is to not be in a competitive game. They need one-sided games. I guess the best way to do that is to get out to that early lead, but then we're all on the edge of our seat hoping they don't blow it late, which they have a tendency to do. So it could be one of those. It could be a barf, cry, and die Sunday afternoon.
Oh, this is Buffalo Bills football from here on out.
Yeah.
I mean, all these games have a playoff feel to them.
Yeah. But close is what I'm saying. Barf, cry, and die in that it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. It could come down to the wire. My hope is that it's not. My hope is that it is one-sided, one way or the other, just so we can get on with our lives and not suffer a stroke by the end of regulation. I mean, how many of you watch these games now? And seriously, like, my health is on the line here. I really don't feel well about how this is going.
I know people that have to take walks after the game just to kind of calm the blood pressure down.
I mean, if we're talking about night games, I'm not sleeping. I can't. Too much going through my head. I'm just unpacking. I can't believe they won, or I can't believe they lost, or what was he thinking with that call? Why would they do that? What was that throw? Whatever it is. There's just so much to unpack after every Bills game because nothing goes as smoothly as you would like it to go. That's not true. There's been the Raiders game went that way.
The
Commanders game went that way. Like when those games happen, when it's not close, when it's one-sided, we all feel good.
Well, the comforting thing, though, is there are other boneheaded coaches out there, like that egghead down in Miami. Like Dolphin fans, like we're talking about your team collapsing. That's your head coach. That was like some terrible management by his team at the end. The team not prepared for that game at all. So it's a league right now that, Danger, quite honestly, with all these backup quarterbacks, that's lacking the quarterback department. And the head coaching, there's a lot of bad coaching in this league.
Yeah. I like RJ, though, bringing up that Cowboys do have a little bit of a soft bit of schedule here to wrap up the season. And that might be, part of why you could see them take their foot off the gas a little bit here. On the road, their first road game since before Thanksgiving. That feels like forever ago.
I think this is hilarious, though. Like 40 and rain. You don't realize you caught a break here.
Got to put my hand in the ice bath so that I know what it feels like to be cold.
Like they're going to wear like the ski hats and everything and the wind blow. Come on.
Of course. All right, taking a break here and coming back. It's happy hour next in the sports bar. We've got a round of shots. We have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We'll dive back into this matchup between the Bills and the Cowboys. Lots to unpack with a round of shots coming up as well. Here in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. This holiday season, all your wishes are coming true on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, if you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now, if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, and join me this NFL season on FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585. And W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
For the second straight day, A.J. Epineza, Micah Hyde did not practice today as the Bills are getting ready for the Cowboys. Quarterback Josh Allen knows it's going to be tough going up against Micah Parsons.
He's a heck of a challenge. You know, him and their D-line is really damn good. You know, they fly around. They got some guys that just absolutely wreak havoc. So we're going to have our hands full in our protection meeting. You know, make sure that we know where Levin is at all times.
Bills and Cowboys, 4:25, the kickoff coming up on Sunday. Now tonight, Week 15 of the NFL season begins. Keenan Allen, Josh Jacobs amongst the players not dressing tonight. A scintillating matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders. Amerks in Hartford tomorrow night, team falling last night in Springfield. Sabres in Vegas also on Friday night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We're focused on, obviously, what's right in front of us with Dallas this week. It's going to take a heck of an effort.
Let's go! Mike Danger.
Do you know who I am?
Gene Battaglia.
I'm so excited on the path that the Buffalo Bills are taking. They are the team of destiny.
I have a take, and I never suck. Bill Belichick, you are not the greatest coach of all time.
Yes.
It's the truth, and I don't even think he's in the top 5.
Thursday night football. Draymond Green headed for counseling because Green has been suspended indefinitely.
Giannis scored a Bucks record 64 points last night, then got into heated post-game exchanges with multiple Pacers over the game ball.
I think trolling and pettiness like this is exactly what makes the NBA great.
5-1 Colorado. They pull away in the third period with 2 goals.
Kulik brings it out on top, moves in backhander. Oh, Subban gets the glove on it, and it's over.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, I didn't like that ending for the Amerks last night.
Yeah, Subban, Malcolm Subban. Forgot he was in Springfield.
Yeah, get the loser point. Rough night overall for the organization where you're talking about the Amerks. Sabres laid an egg. Skinner lands on IR. Not great news.
It's not a great look when one of your guys is like crying, emotional.
Great, Bob.
Eric Johnson breaking down in tears, talking to the Denver reporters prior to the game.
I mean, I really don't want to be judgmental because I'm sure with everything he's gone through his career, all of it prior to this season with Denver, that he's probably got a lot of emotions still and a lot invested in what they did with the Avalanche. But it doesn't really inspire confidence when before you get to your game day and you're going to go up against your former team, you're kind of getting choked up a little bit. And that's what happened last night with Johnson, right? So Johnson, and look, he's not the biggest problem that the Sabres have right now. I mean, they just can't stay consistent. And damn it, I did it again. I wasn't going to even bring them up today because we got a great game coming up on Sunday between the Bills and the Cowboys.
Yeah, fantastic matchup. One you get every 4 years. We talked to RJ Ochoa last hour, and think how much 4 years makes a difference. To me, the last time these two teams played, that was one of the, oh my gosh, we're like, it's Thanksgiving Day, and we've been at the kids' table all these years. We're getting invited to the big boy table here on Thanksgiving Day, and they won?
Yeah, it felt to me that game 4 years ago that the Cowboys didn't take the Bills seriously, right? Didn't it feel that way? Like there was no reason really?
A little bit of that, but then the country saw Josh Allen running for a first down, a good chemistry play between him and Cole Beasley, and you realize, wait a second. They got a win they weren't supposed to. That season ended up with the playoff loss at Houston. But at that point, it wasn't until that game that you realized, wait, there's something here. This Bills team might actually be able to deliver.
Yeah. He mentioned the last time the Cowboys were at Highmark Stadium.
I remember this. It would have been December 2015. Rex Ryan playing out the string, but the Cowboys were bad that year. So bad that they ended up with a top 5 pick. Zeke Elliott ended up being the draft pick. So it was a play out the string. I want to say Kellen Moore might have started that game for Dallas.
Jeez.
That's how long that was ago.
Wow. It'll be fun to see, what exactly breaks here coming up Sunday afternoon. Look, the Bills have been fairly inconsistent through the course of the season. I don't think that's an overstatement. But there's been some encouraging signs here the last few weeks. You get the win at Kansas City. Certainly the way you played against the Jets a few weeks ago was fantastic. The Philly game, you wish you had a different outcome. I think a lot of people wishes there was a different outcome there. But you did play, offensively at least, you played a really good game in Philadelphia. So now with Dallas coming in as hot as they've been, you also kind of know that Dallas, you can knock them off their skis a little bit here the way the Niners did earlier this season. And I think the key is going to be rattling Dak and not letting him find that tight end in the soft spots of that zone.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Ferguson, all of a sudden, you watched him against Philadelphia, it's like, wait a second, this little post pattern, there he is, 15 yards down the field. That can be problematic. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm not letting CeeDee Lamb beat me. I'm making sure that there's no big play here because, yes, this rookie kicker, Aubrey, he's been great. He hasn't kicked in any environment like Buffalo because even though it's going to be raining and 40 degrees, I can guarantee it's going to be windy, and that may kind of
first miss of the season this Sunday.
Yeah,
lock it in.
Yeah, I would lock it in for the kid, and I'd also kind of point to one thing that Jerry Jones said earlier this week, talking about the importance of this game and how they got to figure out a way and do whatever it takes. And we caught a break because it's not going to be a blizzard up there. I love this outside narrative. Like, this is Antarctica. This is like Siberia. Yeah. This is the one place you don't want to go to, but it still is going to be nasty. Like, okay, think that. Honestly, it's not going to be that big a deal, honestly.
Yeah, it's the stereotype of Western New York in the month of December, and it's not a destination, especially if you're used to Texas weather or Florida weather or whatever the case may be. But the weather shouldn't play too large of a factor, but kicking in Orchard Park in December is challenging, and I don't know that Aubrey is ready for that. I don't know that the Cowboys are ready for what the Bills have in store, or what Bills Mafia has in store. One element that we haven't talked about is Dak Prescott's cadence. You know how it's changed this year. Here we go.
We go. Yep.
That's a McCarthy thing, and McCarthy's always been big on that. And you can, use that cadence to your advantage. Is it going to be an advantage if
nobody can hear it?
If nobody can hear you,
yeah.
And that I think is going to be an important factor early in this game. So really, for everything that's gone wrong this season, for everybody that might have their doubts about this team, about this coach, about this quarterback, whatever it might be, as a fan, you have to really, really set that aside for one more Sunday here when you got to have it. You get this win against Dallas, and you're feeling pretty good about how the rest of the season looks and your chances of repeating once again as AFC East champion.
Yeah. Are you prepared to make your pick now, or we got to wait till the break room tomorrow morning?
I'm going to do it tomorrow morning in the break room. I'm going to kind of look over some stats, kind of pour through some numbers, look at the over-under again.
Careful
analysis. I did not... Weird. I went lockstep with Tommy in his picks last week. I don't know that I've ever done that before.
No, wait. Do you have to sing this week then? Is that the
no?
Oh.
Ryan might have to sing this week.
All right.
I'm not sure. I can't remember what the terms of the bet were, but I know I was excluded from those terms because Tommy and I had the same picks. I was that down on the Bills. I really didn't think that they were going to pull that one off in Kansas City. So for this one, I mean, if you do just the simple exercise of better quarterback, better coach, more talent, it's almost impossible to say that there's an edge one way or the other. It's so evenly matched.
Well, in talking to RJ, I think one thing that's been kind of rewritten is Mike McCarthy. We just kind of viewed him as this boob who was up in Green Bay all these years, riding the coattails of Brett Favre, and you only won one championship with Aaron Rodgers. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, my gosh, you're letting go Kellen Moore? What are they thinking? Like, if we're doing like coach of the year, we're being honest about coach of the year. To take Dallas from where they were. And yes, they have a lot of talent. Blah, 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 blah. This is different this year.
It's the best coaching job he's had since the Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fight that. And I would give Dallas the advantage in coaching. I think when you talk about quarterbacks, it's kind of even. I don't know. I mean, just because he hasn't turned the ball over as much this season, I would maybe give Dak a slight edge over Josh, even though Josh has been playing very well the last few weeks. And from a talent standpoint, I think it's pretty even. You've got some really, really talented players defensively for Dallas. And offensively, I think you have some really, really talented players on both teams. So, might lean Dallas, but I got to think about it a little bit more. I'm going to meditate on it tonight, Gino, and then give my pick tomorrow morning in the break room.
Okay. I'll give my pick tomorrow here as well. This is like the fun game. We've got time here in the sports bar at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us anytime. Our handle on X, The Fan Rochester.
So, yeah, if you missed RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, if you missed Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy, couple of great conversations for you to check out, and you can get them now wherever you get your podcast. Just search out the Sports Bar, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app where we sound our best. And thanks for checking us out on the stream as well, at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, at The Fan Rochester on Twitch. If you're on the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll get notifications whenever we go live, which we do every afternoon from 3 until 6.
Chris in Kentucky writing in, the Bills have to feature Dalton Kincaid quite a bit on Sunday. Not only does he provide a mismatch, he's the guy being outmaneuvered ahead. I see the narrative here, right? For Kincaid to have a massive game combined with a Bills dub will be doubly sweet. Dalton Kincaid, he's not 100% here, Chris. Yeah. So he's been practicing limited. Notice who Josh Allen trusted. Like right back in there. Where Dalton Kincaid, from a fantasy standpoint, when Knox not in the lineup, pretty good. Now, no. Dalton Kincaid is back to being tight end 2 on this team.
Well, when you're running that 12 personnel, you have those options, and they were running more of it, certainly with Knox healthy and back in the lineup. Their intention all season has been to run that 12 personnel. They were doing it early in the season. It opens things up, they believe. It opens things up for them. And it makes protection a little bit better. It gives Josh some more options downfield as the play progresses. I don't hate it as long as it's working, right? But it wasn't working for stretches earlier this season, which made us wonder, why aren't you going to more 11 personnel? Why are you forcing 12 personnel? And then Knox gets injured, and by default, you have to kind of shy away from 12 personnel. But last week, I want to say they ran 12 personnel second most in the NFL last week. Play action. Josh Allen has been far more efficient in the play action game the last few games with Joe Brady calling. They haven't run it as much with Joe Brady calling the plays, but when they do run it, it's working that much better. So, I expect the play action game to play a role come Sunday. And, both tight ends. And maybe you see a little bit more out of Diggs come Sunday as well. Maybe this is a Diggs game where he's been getting the targets. It just hasn't really equaled production here the last couple of weeks.
This came across the wire here, following up on the story down in Jacksonville. Do you remember this employee that embezzled all this money, $22 million? He's facing 30 years in prison.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I tell you, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here that sort of thing was frowned upon.
$22 million.
$22 million, and the defense is going to, he's got a gambling disorder.
So do I. When can I start embezzling $22 million?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a defense, actually. I'm sorry that's the reason, but
can't use
nice
that,
try,
huh?
Yeah. I don't know if that's, a jury's going to feel bad about that eventually when you get to that point.
Yeah, $22 million. And thinking that nobody would notice the couillons on that guy.
Yeah, he pled guilty. So I guess I'm reading this through right now on the air. So there won't be a jury. There won't be anything like that. So we'll get to the sentencing next.
Week 15 starts tonight. If you thought that Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky last Thursday night was brutal, hold my beer for Aiden O'Connell and Easton Stick
Yeah, Keenan Allen's like, you know what? I'm not 100%. I'm not playing. Josh Jacobs not playing. You know, Devontae Adams has wanted out for quite some time. Like, why would you? Yeah, like 0-0. Like, we could have that again here.
I'm hammering the under and hoping it hits. I also thought that the under would hit earlier this week with Tennessee and Miami. Of course, that didn't happen. But look, the Raiders have been struggling. It doesn't feel like Pierce is going to end up being the guy after winning the first couple of games. I think they've rattled off 3 straight losses now. The Chargers are a lame duck team this year. I mean, the coach is going to lose his job at the end of the season. That feels fairly certain. Your quarterback is out for the rest of the year, and you're playing a guy who really didn't see himself in this position at any point, Easton Stick.
This isn't how I envisioned it, but when they selected me 5 years ago, this is what you want as a kid, is opportunity to go play, and so I'm excited for that.
Now, I will be paying attention to Easton Stick. Easton Stick, graduate of North Dakota State University.
Where's that nice lady? Like, you should take a vacation to California, just being away from North.
She wants to go to Vegas. She wants
just such a role model for
all
our
kids. Plug into one of those slot machines in Vegas, lady.
It's just awesome. What made it so awesome? Just being here. Being away from North Dakota, for us to be here, it's just great. And to get to see Carson Wentz? Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Such a role model for our kids and grandkids.
And Andy mentioned it. I almost forgot. Easton Stick followed up Carson Wentz at NDSU. Easton Stick
broke all his records.
So the guy kind of benefited from the Carson Wentz effect. Wentz goes early in the draft and has some early success in his NFL career, and simultaneously, Easton Stick is guiding NDSU to FCS championships.
Well, this is the time of year where we get all pumped up about backup quarterbacks winning. Look at Cincinnati. Wow, is Jake Browning real? Do I need to remind you what's happening down in the Meadowlands Danger? Another win for our guy.
'Cause he's Italian.
Just waiting for it.
Of course, because he's Italian. We'll see. Look, it's not a sexy matchup tonight. And Al is probably going to be grumpy. Al, on the week where he was told that he's not going to call a postseason game for NBC, might be a little grumpier than normal.
There are a lot of really good steakhouses in Vegas, though. Hopefully, he gets a good meal without any veggies or anything like just a steak.
Keep those. If those vegetables are offensive to Al, keep those off his plate. For as bad as some of these matchups have been, and when you consider overall throughout the league all of the significant quarterback injuries, believe it or not, NFL games still generate, on average, 17.8 million viewers, which is the league's highest number since 2015, Gino. We're all addicts.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm watching. I mean, I'm not.
Can I say what number one reason is for this? I'm holding up my phone for all our viewers today on YouTube and Twitch. It's the fact that there's a lot of this with more action, and you're going to watch from beginning to end, and you're going to watch tonight. And fantasy football today is bigger than it was 5 years ago. It's just a fact. So as more people start to play, and this becomes more accepted, and more states make this stuff legal, the numbers are just going to get bigger and bigger.
Couple of running backs for AFC playoff teams. There are teams that are in playoff position right now, the Colts and the Chiefs. Jonathan Taylor has already been ruled out for Saturday's game against the Steelers. And Isaiah Pacheco still absent from practice after missing Sunday's loss to the Bills. He could miss another matchup here on Sunday in New England, so the Chiefs could go in to face off against the Patriots shorthanded as well. And speaking of the Colts and the Steelers, TJ Watt clearing concussion protocol. He'll be good to go on Saturday after he took that Ezekiel Elliott knee to his face mask a week ago tonight. There was some controversy there about him entering concussion protocol late, right? It was a day later than they thought. They didn't diagnose
like
him.
how did you not pick that up then? And maybe it was one of those, hey, let's make an example of this right now because we take this very seriously here, the NFL and concussions.
Let's get to a round of shots next, Gino. I know we got a lot to get to.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to, and we got time on last call today for your calls at 866-4FAN. But coming up next, we've got the Sabres, the Amherst. Giannis Antetokounmpo, give me my ball back. Shohei introduced today. We'll tell you a little bit about that. And the team that is farting around in the NFL, I like Zach Taylor. I think he hits the right tone. Like, if you are a fan of the Bengals, the way he speaks directly to the fan, I'll explain.
I can explain why I'm not going to count them out the rest of the season. There's plenty of reasons why you could like Zach Taylor and his Bengals here down the stretch. All right, a round of shots on the way. You mentioned it, 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool, 866-4326. Here in the Sports Bar.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
For the second straight day, A.J. Epineza and Micah Hyde not practicing for the Buffalo Bills today. Josh Allen on going up against that Dallas defense.
He's a heck of a challenge. You know, him and their D-line is really damn good. You know, they fly around. They got some guys that just absolutely wreak havoc. So we're going to have our hands full in our protection meeting. You know, make sure that we know where 11 is at all times.
11 being Micah Parsons. Bills and Cowboys, 4:25 Sunday, our kickoff here on the Fan. Rochester pregame coverage to begin at noon. Week 15 of the NFL season begins tonight with the Chargers and the Raiders. No Keenan Allen, no Josh Jacobs for this game. Emerson Hartford tomorrow night. The Sabres play out in Vegas. G. Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, the Fan, Rochester.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks. Your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, they're smart, they're savvy. Obviously with, Gilmore, he's a vet. You know, he's kind of running routes for people. He recognizes things, he recognizes splits. And the other guy's got the most touchdowns or pick sixes in a year. So they are very aggressive. They like to jump things. They play really good with each other. So we got to have our hands full. I got to make sure that I'm not scripting my passes and making sure I'm switching my eyes up and my feet up so they're not able to jump some of our routes, and just make sure we're good in protecting the football.
Yeah, he's going to have one hell of a game come Sunday. Josh Allen, they're talking more about that Dallas defense, especially those corners.
Are you one that if you hear a grammar thing, do you correct it in front of the kids?
I butcher the English language for 3 hours every afternoon.
You can't play really good. You can play really well.
Yeah, Gino. I butcher the English language every afternoon for 3 hours.
Probably people are silently correcting our grammar.
You should, because I do this for a living, and I know I always slip up, or I'll say the wrong thing, or I'll have a slip where I say one thing but I mean another thing. Grammar isn't a strong suit, even though we do this for a living.
My daughter's probably like, we played good. No, you played well. Trivia question. What happened 10 years ago today here in Rochester? Well, since I'm a tease, I'll get to that later. If you didn't stay up for the Sabre game tonight, you made the right choice, or last night. Buffalo getting thumped in Colorado 5-1. Buffalo looking like a mess on national television. The Avs got 3 goals before the Sabres even had a shot on goal.
When you have that, I mean, is there nothing more demoralizing if you're a fan of the team and they come out flat and immediately it's over? I get excited to just sit in my chair, kick back, and I know for the next 2.5 to 3 hours, this is my plan. I'm excited to watch. Oh, God, they're down 1. Oh, God, 2. What are we doing?
Well, this is like the common theme with the Sabres, right? Like they come out of the gate putting themselves in the, years before, the offense would just pick it back up. Zach Benson, the only goal for Buffalo, UPL returning the lineup. He had 24 saves, and things don't get any easier. The team in Las Vegas to play Friday night, which means, they're got a night off in Vegas. I see no problems here.
Why is Devin Levi a healthy scratch last night is my question. The guy that looked good, coming back up.
That, yeah.
Yeah. This 3 goaltending crap needs to stop. You need to give these guys their opportunities. Eric Comrie is eating up a roster spot. Move on from him or waive him because it's not working.
You can waive him. He can either accept the assignment to Rochester or he can go somewhere else. Do you really think there's going to be, I'm trying to hop inside the mind of Kevin Adams. Is it this danger? At some point, there will be some team that's going to have some goaltender emergency with multiple injuries, and you know what? We can get a draft pick for him at some point. I hope that's not it.
Do you really think so? Do you think somebody right now is saying, you know what we need? That guy. He's an AHL goaltender. Sorry. He is not an NHL goaltender.
And right now, let him go,
and right now, it's a problem. He's eating up a roster spot, and he's taking away minutes from Levi, who, when we see him, for the most part, we're impressed. Let's go. You got to win games now. It's ridiculous.
Fire alarm went off in the second period last night of the Amherst game in Springfield. That caused a brief delay. The Amherst falling in the shootout 4-3. It was our old friend Malcolm Subban getting the win in the net for the Falcons. The Amherst head to Hartford Friday night before heading over to Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Saturday.
I like Subban. Missed that guy.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, you don't want to see an opposing player win, but good for him. A couple of storylines from the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo set the franchise mark in Milwaukee, 64 points. But Mike Danger, he was mad because someone from the Pacers stole his game ball.
It's not the failure.
No, you stole my game ball. Give it back there. I'm going to sue you.
Yeah, what's his deal, man? Like, I really want to understand how his mind works. I don't know that I'll ever understand that guy.
The first thing that told me he was a little off, it was that event in Philadelphia. Do you remember this, where a game is over and they're trying to tear down the arena and he's not getting off the court? And so to kind of prompt him, there's somebody with a ladder and he goes over and kicks the ladder while he's still taking free throws. Like, dude, we need to turn this over here. Time's up. Sometimes he acts like a child.
Yeah, I was going to just call him that, a child. I guess maybe, you know what, Giannis, yeah, maybe you should be upset about your 64-point ball being stolen by the other team. I mean, there's only going to be about, 20, 25, 64-point games in the NBA this year. And by the way, 64 points in a regular season game in December, that's where the legends are born. So, yeah, you should be upset about that game ball, Giannis.
Maybe he's upset, too. They didn't win the in-season tournament.
Right,
I don't know what it is.
Right.
Meanwhile, talk about people that act like children. Draymond Green suspended indefinitely for punching Yusuf Nurkic. This is the sixth time Green has been suspended by the league, so we'll see the outcome. The speculation is, Danger, that he'll be back in time for the Christmas Day games because, well, the NBA needs it. Remember the NBA used to have Christmas Day all themselves? The NFL's like, no. We're going to put Niners and Ravens on Christmas night, maybe a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah, stay down.
Tonight, there are 7 games in the NBA, none of which will be on your television. The Warriors will be without Green, as we mentioned. They face the Clippers. The Celtics are home against Cleveland. Chicago playing in Miami. Today, Shohei Ohtani introduced by the LA Dodgers. MLB reporting, take it for what it's worth, Ohtani broke the Fanatics record for highest jersey sales within the first 48 hours of a release.
Oh, who cares?
Topping soccer stars Lionel Messi.
Oh, who cares?
And Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, who cares?
This one, baseball again. For an athlete who just became the highest paid professional athlete on North American soil for this record-breaking deal, you would think there would be a little bit more around this. This kind of there's no real fanfare. I mean, baseball's just, I know this time of year, it's like they don't even try to take some headlines away.
You would think that like they'd have some sort of partnership with ESPN. We're going to put Shohei on as interpreter. Maybe it's a Shohei request like, no, I'm going to sign here and I don't want all this. And mind you, where are all these sales coming from? Not here. Okay, like
right.
Yeah, so
yeah, the Shohei, now that he's there and now that we know the terms of the deal and what all of it means, it's become a Francesa for me.
Oh, who cares?
Finally, one of the teams that's farting around that we did not expect to be, actually, I think they're better than farting around. That's the Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have guessed, after they lost quarterback Joe Burrow, that they'd be in this position? It's all hands on deck this Saturday when the Bengals host the Vikings. Head coach Zach Taylor has an assignment for his fans. Quote, drink one more drink. Rush into the stadium and be as loud as you can humanly be possible when Minnesota's offense is out there and help our guys. They're like, drink one more drink. Our coach of the year.
Yeah.
But honestly, that fan base.
Stop short of just, driving your car into a pole after the game. But yeah, get hammered.
Can you imagine Sean McDermott saying such a thing? Like, we need everybody to drink one more drink this week. And just be a little loud as possible.
Yeah, there's ways to say it without saying it, right? We need our fans to be rowdy. We need our fans to be at their best or whatever you want to say. We get it.
When they made their run to the Super Bowl, it was like he was showing up at the bars. Remember, he would just kind of like
buy beers, right?
Yeah, buy beers. And like he'd hand the game ball over to the to the bar. Like, what a way to kind of win over.
Yeah, I like Zach Taylor a lot. And Cincinnati is now, again, become one of those teams where it's like, I want to hate the Bengals, but I really have a hard time hating the Bengals, even without Joe Burrow. And I mentioned this earlier. I can bring it up here again, that there's the potential for some history repeating itself in the NFL right now. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it feels as if we've seen this movie before. So here's the timeline. In Cincinnati, September 16th, 2023, they awarded their franchise quarterback with, at the time, the most lucrative deal in the league. It was a 5-year extension worth $275 million. And the belief is that this contract would keep Joe Burrow, a former number 1 overall pick, as their quarterback for his entire career. Now, earlier this year, Burrow hurt his wrist. He's out for the season. You know the story. In 2001, a quarterback named Drew Bledsoe signed a 10-year, $103 million deal, which at the time was the richest in the NFL. Think about how far these contracts have come, too, by the way. The belief at that time is that the contract would have kept Bledsoe, a former number 1 overall pick, in New England for his entire career. Well, thanks to Mo Lewis, Bledsoe had internal bleeding. He was sidelined for the remainder of the year, and a guy named Tom Brady stepped in. I'm not saying that Jake Browning is Tom Brady. I'm just pointing out the similarities, and there are a lot of similarities between these two stories. Jake Browning has a ton of experience. 53 career starts when he was at the University of Washington. Before that, he threw for 229 touchdowns in high school. A lot of people will talk about the senior season where he had 91 touchdowns in one season alone. Tom Brady had a lot of experience when he was at Michigan. He had 30 career starts. Both of these guys played at blue blood, Power 5 programs with rich tradition, rich history. Tom Brady, a 6th-round pick, of course. Browning goes undrafted. Both men written off. Both men knew that they could play in the NFL. In 2001, the Patriots start 1-3. In 2023, the Bengals start 1-3. The Pats got to 5-5. They ran the table, and they ended up beating the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, as 13.5-point underdogs in that Super Bowl. This season, the Bengals were at 5-6. They've won 2 games in a row now with Jake Browning. They sit at 7-6. They're farting around in the playoff picture, and they're both of these guys early in their careers led by defenses, game managers, experienced quarterbacks, talent at the skill positions, not making mistakes, taking what the defense gives them. I'm telling you, Gino, don't write off the Bengals. These similarities are just intriguing to me. I'm not saying
you are indirectly saying.
I'm not saying
you are.
I'm saying there's similarities.
You are, like, we could pick out any backup quarterback that bursts onto the scene. The comparison ends for me like that was year 2 for Brady. This is year 5. You could say what Browning, the path he's taken, it's more remarkable. Like, he was there for anybody for the ticket. He spent how many years in Minnesota? He was buried on the thing. What he has done for himself, he's going to get a nice contract from somebody next year, whether that's the Bengals saying, you know what, it's worth the investment to pay him as a backup, but better yet for him, some team will look, well, we want to draft a quarterback, but will that quarterback be ready? Bridge quarterback. Maybe that's where he will go in and be able to compete next
I feel
year.
like right now he's more than a bridge. I think right now I would take him. If I was a Saints fan, I would want him over Derek Carr.
Would you want him over Kenny Pickett?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I know it's a small sample size. Yes, I've seen enough of both.
Would you, not possible, would you take him over Deshaun Watson?
No. I think that might be the line.
Yeah.
That might be the line. Any team in the NFC South, I would take them. Panthers. Yeah, I mean, you want a bridge quarterback, you're late. I mean, you're not going to take him over Bryce Young. But, man, Bryce Young needs some seasoning. He's not ready for prime time. I would take him over Baker Mayfield. I would take him over Derek Carr. I would take him over whatever Atlanta wants to trot out there, whether it's Ritter or Taylor Heineke.
Geno Smith.
Yes.
I don't think Smith's healthy this year, though.
I would take him.
I
would take him. I just think that there's a reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know why his resume looks like Swiss cheese.
The reason is, Danger, It's Zach Taylor.
And that might be it.
He's that good a coach.
That might be it.
That's it. Because, like, Brock Purdy anywhere else, sorry, it works in San Francisco, and this might be the same case.
Well, it's a great story. I like the kid. I like Jake Browning a lot. I like hearing stories of guys that threw 91 touchdown passes in his senior season. Winner. Jake Browning is a winner. I like those guys.
Kyler Murray objects. Did you know his high school resume?
I mean, if I need to, I'll just ask him because I'm sure he has no problem sharing it.
You can't ask a trivia question without the payoff. Here's the payoff. What happened 10 years ago tonight?
Tell me.
Frozen Frontier. The Amherst game was actually 10 years ago last night.
I should have picked that one up.
Yep, this was RIT against Niagara in a snow squall. Basically.
Played in the media game a couple of nights before they actually had the game. I remember that night because the snow squall was happening. The girls were little. That was 10 years ago, so they were 9 and 4, 9 and
9 times.
9 and 4. So they were little. We were at Great Wolf Lodge, and I remember watching Frozen Frontier. It was on TV.
Amherst and Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then RIT was the following night. Yep.
The media game was a lot of fun, unless your name was Toby Motika. Legend has it that night on the ice at Frozen Frontier, Toby Motika lost his wedding ring.
I heard about this.
It's the stuff of legend.
Wow. But he can't skate, though. We did a Gilda's Club event years later, and Toby, hey, give him credit. He was out there, but I'm like, he was playing in the media game?
Yeah. A lot of guys playing. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast. It was a blast. And in honor. And then there was a 3-on-3 tournament that I played in later that weekend after the two games. And it was mush. It was like 50 degrees. Like the ice was mush. It was bad.
It's funny. Like, what a roll of the dice. Because can you imagine now? There's no outdoor skating right now. There's not going to be any this week, and we're going to get to 50 tomorrow. Nobody's complaining about that. People are asking, well, why don't we do this again? And you could do it in January. Here's why. And I've talked to a lot of people. In fact, everybody lost money.
Nobody made money on it.
No.
It's a good idea. A lot of fun. Not profitable.
No, and there were some logistical issues. What I remember about that, too, was everybody had to go to Frontier Field, but you couldn't go. Like, literally, the pipes were turned off because that's the stadium not built for that. So, rows and rows of porta potties.
Yeah, and I imagine sight lines probably weren't great either. Like, hard to watch that game being where the rink was versus where the stands were. I just remember thinking it was cool. It was a lot of fun. But I don't know what that experience would have been. I mean, it would have been memorable, I suppose, more than anything. You're making a memory.
Well, my experience, the Amherst game, I watched on Friday night, and then the following night, RIT and Niagara skated. But the beginning of that game, it's a snow squall, and I'm up basically on the TV deck calling this game, and I can't see the ice.
Yeah.
So my face is like buried in the monitor trying to figure out where everything's going on.
Let's get the last call. You can join us now at 585-866-4FAN. We say the most dangerous words in all of sports talk radio. Back to the phones. 866-4326 as we close up shop next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
In the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
This isn't how I envisioned it, but when they selected me 5 years ago, this is what you want as a kid, is opportunity to go play, and so I'm excited for that.
LA Chargers quarterback Easton Stick getting the start tonight to kick off Week 15 in Vegas against the Raiders. But watch anyways.
Yeah, I'm going to say, no, I'm not watching that. And then what's going to end up happening?
You're curious.
Yeah.
You're curious. I want to see what Easton Stick plays like tonight. And I'm hammering that under. I don't have high hopes for the quality of play, but let's see. Let's see what Easton Stick has in him. The former FCS championship quarterback from North Dakota State University. Oh, no. It's last call in the Sports Bar at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN. Against our better judgment, we check in with John from Rochester. Hey, how are you, you Spartan, you?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great. And it looks like I'm playing golf tomorrow. That's going to be fun. But listen, I got to tell you, the Bills are going to win big Sunday, and I'll tell you why. The Cowboys always, for the most part, underperform in Buffalo. And you guys, I think I heard you say that it's going to be 40 degrees and rain.
Yeah.
I just think they're just going to wilt. The Cowboys are going to wilt. I was at the first Cowboys-Bills game in 1971, and the Cowboys came in. I can't remember if Staubach was there or not, but they had a really good team, and we had Dennis Shaw, who ended up being Rookie of the Year. It was a shootout. It was unbelievable. We lost, but I'll never forget it because there's a guy in front of me by the name of Rudy who threw up all over the place.
Jesus.
At the end of the game.
Fantastic memories.
There's a guy.
It's nice to know that things haven't changed since 1971, that you could go to Highmark Stadium and you can see Rudy still performing the same acts every Sunday.
That's right. And it was in the old stadium, and it was a phenomenal game, back and forth, and Dennis Shaw was unbelievable that year. Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. John, temper your expectations, as we always like to say here in the Sports Bar. And, we don't talk happy holidays, John.
John from Rochester checking in.
He's a gem.
Known as the optimist, I believe.
That's how he used to phrase himself, yes.
Yeah, look, John's always friendly to us and always, he's
a great dude. Yeah.
He's a great guy. You meet him in person, and he's come out to all of our Friday Football Talk Lives, and he's a guy I happily will buy a beer for because I just know he loves this. He's as passionate a sports fan as you're going to find. I love that about him. And I know that there's some people that like, really, John from Rochester, why is he hey, coward. The number is open for everybody to call.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you want to contribute something of great value to the Sports Bar, we're all ears.
If you had to pick worst drought losses, well, you got your choice, right? But I'd nominate one. Tony Romo throws 5 interceptions, and the Cowboys still somehow win because the Bills completely mismanaged the end of that game.
Yep. Man, I hope it's not one of those Sundays. I really, really hope it's not one of those Sundays. I hope that John's right. I hope that they're soft. I hope that the elements get to them. I hope that the atmosphere gets to them. I hope that they're overwhelmed by the atmosphere. And I hope the Bills handle their business. We'll make our predictions tomorrow in the Sports Bar. In our last-minute conversations here as we get you set up for Sunday afternoon. Pre-game coverage gets underway Sunday at 12 noon, with kickoff, of course, coming at 4:25. The Bills hosting the Cowboys. RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys was great. Andy Barrett from Yahoo Fantasy as well. You missed those conversations? Get them on demand now wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out the Sports Bar. CBS Sports Radio next on the Fan Rochester.